Ice has dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It is a Tuesday. It's a top tier Tuesday, and your top tier question of the day: who are your favorites to win the Euros this summer? It's kind of an open-ended discussion about who the favorite is going into the tournament. A lot of people are pointing at France. I don't know if France is a prohibitive favorite, though. There's others that you can consider, too. So this is going to be an interesting conversation as we get ready for the Euros. England announced their provisional squad this morning. I'm sure John Nelson was tuned in and taking notes on England, right?
No.
Why are you acting that way about your beloved England, John? What happened?
Last time I checked, I'm a U.S. citizen, sir.
But you're the English snob on the show, John.
But that's league. That's
just the league, club over country. I got it. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a snob. Okay. Just checking.
This is a revelation.
I know, Jarrett. It's a little surprising. What are Scotland's chances since they're your favorite?
Man, just go bother England. Just if you troll England in some way, shape, or form, it's kind of a victory.
Yeah. Is that all Scotland's hoping for?
No, I think you're hoping for more, but it's I wonder. I would love to poll everybody and say, hey, you're going to get just absolutely blasted in your other two group games, but you'll beat England.
They might take that.
They'll probably take that.
Yeah, they might.
Because that means beating England at Wembley.
Yeah. And Scotland, by the way, Jared, is a plus 25,480.
They're not going to win the Euros.
Win the Euro.
This is not Greece.
Right. This is not 2004 anymore.
This is not 2004 Greece parking a bus and slashing the tires at the start of the tournament and setting the bus on fire.
Yeah, that was not exactly an enjoyable.
I will enjoy experience. It. If for no other reason, the emotion that came out of those players when they won the shootout to go into it, it meant a lot to them, and it's going to mean a lot to them. And I think they will, at the risk of making it sound like they'll just try hard and nothing good will happen, I think they will pour themselves into it. The results might not show, but I think they'll be fun to watch.
So I'm intrigued to see who else is with France in the top tier conversation about the Euros. John, you're going to have to track this on one of your 65 legal pads. Okay, so you got to check the Twitch pitch and you got to check the Twitters on this.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we throw in Belgium as their last hurrah for this golden generation?
Yeah, you can have a suggestion for Belgium as a top tier favorite in the Euros. Absolutely. Talent, obviously there. There's not really any questions about that, but can they win a trophy with this talent that they have? We shall see. That's going to be the big question mark. We'll get into it as we go. We've also got Dylan Butler of MLSsoccer.com joining us at 9:30 to look back at the weekend that was in the league and start to look ahead to the last full weekend before the international break. We got rosters being announced. We've got rumors out of Brazil. We've got all kinds of things happening in the soccer world. Let's start with that. We were talking about it before we went live. This is starting to get into some bigger outlets. It is all tracking back to the original reporting from Cosme Rimoli of R7 in Brazil. Rony of Palmeiras is reportedly a target of Atlanta United. Now, he would be a designated player signing because the transfer fee is rumored to be $15 million. Salary plus that would put him into the designated player category. Now, some backstory on Rony of Palmeiras. First off, if you've listened to the show, Tom Robinson has talked about him multiple times. He's been one of the stars in the Copa Libertdores for Palmeiras, who are the defending champions. Last year in their run, Rony played 11 games. He scored 5 goals, and he had 8 assists. That's pretty good. This year in 4 matches, and they are through to the knockout rounds already. They have 1 more match to play. He's played in 4 of their 5 games, and he has 4 goals and an assist. When you look at stats from Brazilian players, you have to look a little bit about what competition they're coming in, because it gets very, very confusing. This is a little confusing as to the reaction here from people, and I see Jason Nix's question. Why is the suggestion already that this is a bad deal? This is a player who's been talked about as one of the stars on the South American continent for the last couple of years. A lot of people are talking about this player. Don't let things out there in the ether, and yes, articles and stories and things like that. Don't let them cloud a player who in 15 Libertadores games over the last 2 years has 9 goals and 9 assists. That's legit. Is he the right fit? Don't know. Is he a good player that's worthy of being chased by good teams? Absolutely he is. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to look at each thing as its own conversation. Rony, Palmeiras is trying to lock him up to an extension, according to reports out of Brazil. They want to sign him through 25. He has so far turned that down. Atlético Paranaense holds 35% of his registration pass. There's also a report from AS that Rony would be entitled to somewhere between 10 and 13% of the transfer fee. Now, something that complicates this that I didn't see originally reported, Palmeiras has a player out on loan who is returning at the end of June when the window opens. Dudu. He has been on loan at Al Duhail. A purchase deal was not able to be worked out on him, so he's coming back. That's going to complicate their roster, and they're probably going to need to move one of them. I think the idea was Dudu would be the one who would not be back. Rony would sign a long-term deal with Palmeiras. Now it's complicated. So they're going to have to move one. Palmeiras is trying to reinforce because they're getting ready for the knockout rounds of the Libertdores that starts on July 13th. They were after Tati Castellanos earlier in the year. That didn't happen. They were after Edward Atuesta earlier in the year. That didn't happen. So now I think people have to understand this is a rumor. This is just a rumor. So when you get into like, oh, it's a signing that would do this and that, it's a rumor. It's a rumor out of Brazil, which is notoriously a place where a lot of rumors happen. Remember the Tati Castellanos chase for long time. That was supposed to have been a done deal. He was leaving. He was angry. He wasn't happy. He wanted to go. He didn't want to play for NYC ever again. I think he scored a goal like 3 days later after that report. So just saying, this is a rumor. It is out there. He has done incredibly well in the Libertadores over the last 2 years. He's been one of the few bright lights in terms of exciting players on Palmeiras' roster. I mean, 9 goals and 9 assists, not too shabby. As a team, they are very defensive. They are very negative. Their Libertadores final win over Santos last year was a miserable experience watching it. Rony is not a miserable player to watch. That does happen from time to time. So that's what I know. That's what's out there. That's what's being reported. Don't jump to conclusions about it's done because somebody said it in Brazil. Wait and see on this. But yeah, there's a lot of things that check boxes that could he be on the move? Yeah, they've got another player coming back from a loan deal that I think that loan deal, according to Transfermarkt, was over $7 million. Like, that's a move that is made with an expectation of a purchase. Now, it didn't happen. So you're going to have 2 players in kind of the same position that you've got to figure it out. That checks a box with, could he be on the move? Yes. Does he fit the profile of a player that Atlanta United could use? Well, with everybody saying they want a goal-scoring either winger or member of the front 3, remember Atlanta United, the way they play, it's not strictly like he played this position here, he's going to play this position here. He's a goal scorer. He's done it at the Libertadores level. He's been on a title-winning campaign in the Libertadores. Boxes are checked. Doesn't mean it happens. Doesn't mean it's the right deal. Doesn't mean it's the only thing out there that is being worked on. But yeah, that's the rumor right now from Cosme Ramoli of R7 in Brazil that Rony is R-O-N-Y. Rony, the R is like an H. That is a potential target of Atlanta United. That's being reported in Brazilian media. It's being picked up by others. AS, for example, in the U.S. and Spanish language had an article on this today.
And just as a little bit of added background, Callum Williams, the voice of Minnesota United, called some of the matches from Copa Libertdores. Here's what he said, and this came out late last night. And he said, and this is from his Twitter, he says, several reports now suggesting Atlanta United will bid $15 million for Palmeiras attacker Rony. Got to be honest, a front line with Rony supporting Joseph Martinez is absolutely mouthwatering. Rony was exceptional and run to Copa Libertadores 2020 triumph. So that's just Callum's opinion of Rony as a footballer.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very highly thought of player. If you've watched Libertdores, if you've watched in Brazil, like, he has done very well. He's 26. You know, he's one of those Brazilian players who didn't get that move very early in his career. So, you know, you're starting to see, especially this year, Brazilian players of all ages find their way to MLS now. The money is starting to work out. Brazilian clubs didn't necessarily need to sell in previous years. That's not the case anymore after the effects of COVID. And players are far more open to coming to MLS because of the level and because of players who have come and players who have had it as a potential launching pad for that European move. Maybe he didn't get that before. Could be a late bloomer. Could go to Portugal. Could go to somewhere after coming to MLS and doing well for a couple of years. And look, I know, you know, a lot of people are going to make the comparison to Pity Martinez. That deal worked out for Pity Martinez really well when you really get down to it. He came to Atlanta, made good money, made more money than he was making at River Plate, and then he was sold at a profit to a club in the Middle East where his salary, I think, more than tripled. So it worked out well for him and his family, and hopefully he recovers from the knee injury that he suffered. He's going to be out for a while, but you know, Rony could be looking at a potential situation like that if he comes here and does well. There you go. It is a rumor. Rumor. I feel like we need like some kind of music in the background as a watermark of rumor talk. It's a rumor. It's out there. That's what people are talking about this morning. Jarrett, your thoughts?
It's a rumor, but it's. I mean, no, you got to beat that home. Like, you're not in a window right now yet.
No, you are.
Summer could get.
You are.
Wait, we are still?
Yeah, remember they moved the windows.
Oh, that's right.
Because of the late start to the season. It's through the very first days of June. I don't have the dates in front of me. And then it closes for like a month, and then it's back open in July.
Yo, linear time is a scam.
It's weird, man.
Like, especially in 2021. Geez. No, thank you. I forgot that we were on a weird calendar because of the late start.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're in a window. It could get weird over the summer. You have Olympics, you have tournaments, you're going to have players showcasing. I don't know Atlanta's situation right now in terms of designated player spots. I know Alan Franco was brought in on the DP spot, but I don't know to what degree he can be bought down for that. That would be a hell of a flex, by the way. By the front office just to throw weight around to say, hey, we brought in two guys and we bought them down just so we could bring in another $15 million attacker. You're welcome. It's an interesting player in terms of you want a guy who's going to both create goals and create assists. He is a bit older. He's 26. Pitti and Marcelino were both, I believe, 24 when they came here, 25 or 24. So I'm very intrigued by all of it in the sense that it is a guy who doesn't just create the opportunities, which is, you know, what you've got. But if you want another guy who, you know, can be lethal in front of the net, that's an option that you're looking at there. But also can be that guy who you hope could be the kind of threat who, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't want to put the expectation on anybody to get double-digit goals and assists in this league. That's not fair to any player. But I think that's kind of what you might be looking for here, is somebody who can create because of the way wingers operate in the system, but also on the chances they get inside, that they're going to be lethal in front of net. Also, it is backup in case I don't know his situation with any national team. There is a non-zero chance Joseph Martinez is missing for a bit, y'all.
Yeah.
Because Venezuela going to come calling. And if you want to pull that trigger, you got somebody else you can throw up top in this system if you need to. And then play him out wide if you need to as well. We'll see. I know it's honey, but the idea there is a certain rural Georgia appeal to bringing in a guy whose name is just Ronnie, because that sounds like the man who's about to flip your hash browns at Waffle House.
I know. I can already see that.
If
coming.
we don't play Smoky Mountain Rain every time he scores a goal, I'm going to march down to the audio booth at Mercedes-Benz and have a word with him.
Don't we have to take him to see the Smoky Mountains first?
That's fine.
If that's going to happen.
If he comes in on a plane, just kind of sit there and, kind of do the landing a little circuitously. Just kind of sit there, head to the North Georgia mountains and take your time and then come back on your approach. And that way it's like, okay, there, you've seen him.
Yes.
Just take him up past Johnson City.
Yeah.
Past the Tri-Cities area where the Otters play. Where you literally have to, on the way to West Virginia, drive through mountains. Because there are tunnels through the mountains. Here's Appalachia. Welcome. Good luck.
he would be very confused.
Confusedly asking, why do they keep playing that weird-ass song every time I score a goal?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm going to make this happen. If it happens, I'm going to make that part happen.
He would be very confused by this. So in the Libertdores this year, he's played kind of all over the front. He's a player who is versatile. We'll go back to he has been playing in the Paulista League as well. That's wrapping up. The Brazilian Serie A will be starting here very soon, which will be a little bit more of a first choice. The state leagues do have some mandates about first choice teams being fielded, but teams always find a way. A hamstring injury, of course. Hamstring. Can't play. So you find ways to balance that. He did not play in the last match against Defensa y Justicia in Libertadores. He scored 2 goals in the first time they played in Libertadores in Argentina. He scored twice in that match in a 2-1 win. And just to give you an idea of how they're shaped, according to SofaScore, they've played a lot of 3-5-2, and he's been one of the 2 up top. So a pretty free role in that situation. They don't play their 3-5-2s in Brazil like you might see an old school English team where it's bomb it to the 2, they knock it down for the other one. It gets very open. So he can drift, he can play kind of all over. His season heat map in the Libertadores is a lot of yellow and red in the attacking half all over the place. That's the kind of player you're going to get. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but it is a rumor at this point. I don't have the suggested clown car song from Tafka or carnival music that is free to use in the background. Maybe we'll have to do that for rumors from now on. But rumor.
So you're saying it's a rumor?
That's what I'm saying. I just want to make sure. But as we said, I believe yesterday, it could have been last week, you have to be ready to deal if deals come your way. You have to be ready for business. You have to be ready if somebody drops an opportunity in your lap. Okay, is this a good opportunity for us? No, it's not. Oh, yes, it is, and we didn't expect that one. Let's take a look. Let's explore this. What can we do to make this happen? You have to be ready, and I think Atlanta United's done a good job of that over the years with guys who've become available, and they've snatched them up, and it's bettered the team. Is this one of those players? We'll have to wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see over time. But rumor. Domer, I saw your tweet yesterday, and it was a good one based off of our conversation yesterday about the road to eating well and not jumping off for fast food. Honey, in my mind, is not a fast food option. It's a good signing. Again, Tom Robinson has talked about him multiple times on the show, just with us, about players to watch in the Libertadores, players who are standing out in the Libertadores. So he's not a nobody, or Callum is also saying the same thing from his time calling Libertadores games. He stands out. He's a legit talent. So if he is the legit talent that can make this team better, would love to see it. So it's not jumping off at the first thing. It's also still a rumor. So there we go. He is really the only player for Palmeiras that has jumped off the screen to me, because typically they like to dig trenches in front of their goal. And what did you say, Jared, earlier about Greece? Light buses on fire?
Yeah, you put the bus in front of the goal, you cut the tires, and you set the bus on fire.
They do that, and then sometimes they fall over and say that somebody else set the bus on fire. They're good at that when it comes to Palmeiras. I was really infuriated by their final against Santos. That
was painful.
I was very angry about that. He's one of the few players who's really jumped out to me about that side. So anyway, that's where it stands. It is a rumor. We will continue to talk about rumors as rumors come up because people need to know. The peeps gots to know. That's what we're here for. Yeah. Other stuff to talk about with Jarrett before we go with him, because Dylan Butler is going to join us at 9:30. Stuart Holden tweeted yesterday, Jarrett, that Andy Polo, who was injured in the nasty tackle from Derek Williams of the LA Galaxy, quad and knee ligament damage. Reports are that he'll be out for the entire season. Does this affect what kind of punishment Derek Williams could get?
I think the really quick fire answer is it's really tempting to say it should, because this is. But at the same time, even if he hadn't been seriously injured, you still give him a long suspension because this is a potential consequence. So even if Polo had gotten out of that with no major injury, you still would have given him a very long suspension, and you should give him a long suspension for a really dangerous play. I mean, that's a 15-yard penalty in the NFL, man.
However, Jarrett, Jose Martinez dropped a bionic elbow on Tati Castellanos' head and got 3 games.
I'm not going to try and predict the penalty for this.
I don't think you can go more than 3 because of that.
Yeah, that's the precedent.
Man.
I'm with you. It's horrendous. I mean, did he mean to do it or not? Was he concussed, which is one suggestion?
Yeah,
on
30 seconds
side?
Before.
Was he concussed and he thought that he could try to cut a man off at the knees? I don't know. But it happened, and 3 games, I think, is the max he'll get. And I don't even know if he'll get that. I think he gets 2.
He needs more than that. Because
I agree.
That can't happen.
I agree. I would much rather see that be extremely harsh and try to limit people going at other players' knees, going with elbows to players' heads, and putting players' long-term health at risk. Be over the top on the punishment. Say this is a league that's not going to stand for that nonsense.
Yeah. I'll say 5 and just throw it out there and see what happens.
Well, but and I mean, Jarrett, to your point, we know that 3 for a bionic elbow is precedent. Castellanos is still playing, whereas Andy Polo is not. And I think that might be the gauge for pushing it forward and jumping the number a little bit.
I mean, we'll see. I'm gonna put some bait on the end of the hook and toss it out there at 5 games and just see what happens, man.
We'll see. I don't know.
I don't think it's that high, but
yeah, it should be. It should be, but I don't think it
is.
Here's
the Galaxy. Y'all need to make sure he's got flu-like symptoms next time you play Portland.
Oh,
just he needs to have flu-like symptoms that day.
He's got a knock.
Yeah, get your fourth liner out there and just get ready to drop as soon as the whistle goes.
He's got a knock. Jarrett, before you go, your thoughts on the national team roster that was announced yesterday for the Nations League semifinals. No Miles Robinson. I thought there would be one more center back, and it would have been Miles. Lots of European-based players. No surprise there. Are there any surprises on the fact that they're on the roster, or any surprises of guys who were left out for you?
Can I say Josh Sargent? Just because I know everyone seems to really still love Josh Sargent, but it's just been kind of inconsistent. And I understand not taking a bunch of guys from MLS, but I think he could have found another striker. And hopefully he proves me wrong.
They could have found one by the name of Daryl Dike. And he did not get it, and Josh Sargent got it. I'd like to know the reasoning on that one.
just because Josh Sargent's chilling out in Germany doesn't mean that he'd be on every single roster for this. And I like Sargent. It just hasn't been there right now. It hasn't been there for a bit.
I want to see what's next for him. I don't know what happens with him. Werder Bremen probably going to need to sell players because of the financial implications of getting relegated. What's the market for a Josh Sargent? Or should he stay and play well in the second division and get that consistency? Don't know.
The Julian Green method.
Yeah, he's still around, but he hasn't really bounced back either.
No, I believe he tried his bounce back in the second division in Germany.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he had any other options actually on him. I think he kind of was stuck there. I think Sargent would have some other options, but are they going to be the right ones? You know, is it?
Yeah, and I like Sargent for what he can be. Just it wasn't in. If we're taking strikers in form, I think there are other choices.
Kellen Acosta being there is not too big of a surprise for me. He's really the best option as a backup number 6. I'm not expecting to see Tyler Adams. I was a little bit surprised he was here. The talk when he was sent home from Germany was that he'd be out for a little while. Maybe things have changed. That was a little bit of a surprise. Miazga, Ream, McKenzie, and Brooks are the 4 center backs. I thought there might have been a 5th, and it would have been Miles Robinson. That was maybe the surprise for me.
And maybe, I don't know, man, maybe they made the decision before watching him develop a 30-yard vertical ball he can drop on a dime.
Maybe so. We'll see what happens. You can tease the podcast that was dropped yesterday on the network that you were on, the Soccer for US, Soccer for Us.
Oh, yeah. So that dropped. Give that a check because we basically did a snake draft of venues in North America, in the United States, for all of the World Cup qualifying. We picked our venues, and then we assigned what games go where to those venues. And you can check that out and find out where I'm making Costa Rica play the United States.
Oh, boy.
Because it's really mean.
Denver?
No.
Oh, boy. You got to listen to the podcast.
It's worse.
It's on the network.
Johnson City.
No, it's on the network. John, stop playing spoilers. Jarrett, thank you.
I'll see you.
Bye.
Later. Okay. Let's get Dylan Butler on the line. We're going to talk MLS from the weekend, get Dylan's thoughts on how everything went down. Give Mateo just a minute to get this sorted out, and we will get Dylan on the line, dialing out now. Dylan does a lot of the previews at MLSsoccer.com, follows the league very, very closely. Would love to pick his brain about a few of the results from the weekend and maybe some of the surprising results with 2 of the bottom teams in the league getting wins in Chicago and Cincinnati. Dylan, how are you this morning?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. We were just talking about the U.S. roster for Nations League and kind of looking at any potential omissions or some surprises in it. Was there anything that jumped out to you, either on the guys left out or guys who made the roster that you didn't expect to?
Good question. Well, I mean, there's the clear. I don't think I was necessarily surprised, only because there's that, it's clear that you need to have 2 different rosters for the 2 different competitions, right? So, kind of considering that the Gold Cup is going to be happening kind of during the European preseason, and then you want those guys to get ramped up for the qualifiers. So I'm not surprised that it's kind of like the A team, if you will. I think the biggest surprise for me actually is maybe DK not being on it, just because he had such a great run at Barnsley, and obviously that's the big question too. Is he an English player going forward? Is he an Orlando player going forward? I think that's something that we'll figure out in the coming days. But maybe that's the only surprise. Not surprised to see that it's a heavily European based lineup, and I expect a heavily MLS-based lineup for the Gold Cup.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating. Gold Cup roster with what we're seeing in MLS this year with some guys emerging, not out of nowhere, but some maybe new faces that could push into that, and then balancing it out with MLS teams, guys that they can afford to lose. That's going to be a very interesting conversation ahead of the Gold Cup.
And I think too, it's this could shape up to be a very, very important summer for like a Miles Robinson, for example, right? Because you've got Aaron Long, who is kind of pretty much kind of cemented his spot in as a regular starter as a center back, and now unfortunately he's out for the year with his injury, but with that also creates opportunities, right? And I think it's a big one for Robinson to maybe push for some added time when the qualifiers come in the fall.
Then the other thing that we kind of got into, Dylan, in the first half hour was the news that it looks like Andy Polo is out for the year for Portland. Mm-hmm. If you were the Grand Exalted Poobah of discipline, what would you do?
On a card? Like, how do you even fit that all on a business card?
Use the front and the back. Card. That's all you got to do.
Oh, fair. Good point.
Just front and back. It's a two-sided print at Kinko's. That's all you need. So if you're Grand Exalted Poobah of discipline for Major League Soccer, what do you do for Derek Williams? Because Jason mentioned the bionic elbow that was given to Tati Castellanos and only given 3. So
I don't know if you can go more than 3. Like that's the hard thing here is we've seen these so many times where a player's hurt in a bad challenge. Should the length of the injury affect the length of a suspension? I can buy the argument that it should, but it never really does that I can think of.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Well, obviously it's not going to be a like for like, right? No. That's never going to be the case. But I think, then there's so many factors I think that you've got to figure into it, right? Like the intent, the intent is a big part of it. I have like 6 in my head, maybe like a 6-game ban, maybe like 5. I would be disappointed, I think, if it was less than that.
I love it. I would honestly love to see that. I'm thinking it'll be less, but I hope that I'm wrong on it because I hope that the league will crack down on these sorts of plays because I want to see more exciting attacking players come into the league and not be put at risk for these kinds of challenges. Got to get rid of this stuff. And I think MLS has done a good job of bringing in attacking talent, but at times there's a lot of physicality that limits it. And I hope that the games can open up a little bit more and players aren't at risk of having their season ended by a horrendous tackle.
Yeah, I think there's been strides made in that. This isn't MLS of the of the late 90s and early 2000s when it was, rock'em sock'em, soccer out there. But I agree. Look, you want to be a destination league for young, talented players. And obviously a lot of those are coming from South America and like the Argentines and the Paraguays and Venezuela. So of course, they want to show for their national teams as well, and you don't want to earn that reputation of being a league where that creativity is A, stifled, and B, could result in a season-ending injury. So I think this is an important moment to perhaps make a statement. If I was that Grand Exalted Poobah, I think that would be the statement.
Of discipline.
Yeah, that was that was in the back of the card. I was only reading the front of the card, but I think that would be my answer. It would be like 5-6 games, just to sort of make Williams an example going forward.
I like you as the Grand Exalted Poobah of discipline in MLS.
Thank you.
I vote for you to stay in that position. Let's start from the bottom from the weekend that was. Two teams at the very bottom got their first wins of the season, Chicago and Cincinnati. Are they better than they've shown so far this season, or do you feel like it might be just a blip on the radar screen?
Yeah, I don't think they're better, but I think maybe it's a little bit more than a blip, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think Cincinnati. I think they're both in the boat of they put in the effort on the day, and they were rewarded for their work, right? But in the wanting to see the beautiful game and play it around and yeah, that wasn't the case, right? Like Cincinnati, it wasn't like a smash and grab necessarily, but again, they worked hard. They were disciplined defensively, which hasn't been the case, and they capitalized on a set piece. And then, Chicago, in a similar way, they outworked Miami, which led to some pretty strong words from Phil Neville about his team. And often we talk about storm clouds and concerns, and I think that's one right now for Miami. And it was interesting too because Franco Panizo, a good friend of mine, and he used to be up here in New York. He's down in Miami now. I thought he asked a fair question of Phil Neville, where Neville was kind of the idea was, we can't just show up on the day, right, and win a game. We can't just play beautiful football. We've got to do all the other things first. We got to win the 50-50s. We have to play well defensively. Like we've got to, bring our blue collar type of mentality. And he didn't see that against Montreal. Thought that was a wake up call, and then it wasn't because of Chicago. So Franco said, "Listen, how do you do that when you've got one of the most expensive rosters in a league full of veteran players?" And he said, well, Neville kind of thought using the term veteran was disrespectful of his team, but it's true, right? I mean, you've got guys who are in their 30s who have played at the highest level with Matuidi and Higuain and Pizarro came in, certainly a decorated player. If they're not the ones kind of bringing it and leading the way, how do you then turn them into those guys, right? If maybe they're not right now. So I think there's certainly a lot of question marks for Miami. And, look, Chicago's been dealing with a lot of injuries. I don't necessarily give them a pass because of that, but I understand a little bit of their slow start. And Cincinnati it seems like Cincinnati's been Cincinnati, where they're still trying to figure things out, and they're a conundrum for sure, but big 3 points for both of them.
Okay, so since the word of the question has now turned into conundrum for me, let me move out to Los Angeles for you. And just when we all started having Chicharito as our captain on our fantasy teams,
yeah,
it's Portland winning by 3, and then adding to the conundrum, LAFC knocks off Colorado 2-1. When it comes to the dueling conundrums in Los Angeles, where do you stand?
Well, I was never. We had a conversation early in the year about the pressure on Bob Bradley this year, right? And we weren't necessarily talking about sort of where they were in the table in May and June, but more so about winning trophies. So that pressure's still on him, but I wasn't all that concerned because of their injuries as well. Like, I mean, look, you take a Carlos Vela out, that's going to affect you. That's going to really make things difficult for you. He's back in. He had his first start, and I think that it's not just a factor of what he can do on the ball and his goals that he could score. Now he could open up space for others, right? You've got to account for him, and lo and behold, Diego Rossi then scores a brace, right? So the Vela factor is real, not unlike the Joseph factor in Atlanta. That creates opportunities for others, if not for himself. And my worry for LAFC is more so in the transfer window, because you've built up a squad of really good, young, attractive to Europe or other areas players, and Atuesta maybe being the biggest of them all. That's a huge loss, right? I mean, that's not a replaceable part, I don't think, certainly in the middle of the season. So, that being said, this is a league that Don Garber has said numerous times that it wants to be a selling league, right? So you have to sort of let him go, not unlike Atlanta had to let Miggy go. So, but that could be a massive hole, and I don't see that replacement on their roster. So, while it's great to have Vela back and they get the points and I think they're going to start climbing up the table, that's something for them to worry about in the future. And look, I think I even said too early with you guys, I loved Portland and Seattle's obviously showing their ability and their skill, and they're the best team in the league right now. But Portland isn't too far behind, and I've been impressed with their ability to deal with those injuries, right? Like Abobase is a huge part for them, and he's been out, and they're able to win. And now you're going to be without Andy Polo. That's a big loss as well. You have Chara out of the lineup, and in the past that meant an automatic loss. Diego, that is, Chara. And they've still figured out ways to get it done. So they're not, for me right now, necessarily on that same class of just next man up that Seattle is apparently mastering right now, but it's pretty impressive by Portland. So from an LA perspective, that conundrum that you asked about, I'm not so worried about that, but they need a plan B and C to kind of keep Chicharito active and involved. And look, we talked about the tactical change and what they did with Zubac in that early season to help Chicharito out, right? To give him that extra guy, that extra runner, and create some space. But obviously teams are dealing with that as well, right? So Vanny's smart enough to figure that out. I'm not all that worried about them just yet either. I still don't love their back line, but I don't, just like I wasn't saying he was going to score 60 goals in a year, I don't think this is Chicharito of 2020 either.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would have loved to have seen that game at 11v11 for 90 minutes and to see what would have shaken out with the Galaxy in Portland. Before we get into Seattle and Atlanta, and I want to get your thoughts on that one, another team that has won back-to-back games in the West, and Minnesota was off, so they've still got their two-game winning streak of maybe not the most impressive two-game winning streak, but hey, they got it. They needed some wins. Kansas City's won 3 of 4. And it feels like Peter Vermes' teams typically under the radar. They've been impressive here lately. I think Kansas City could be a problem in the West.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of that a little bit is the maturation and maybe finally finding a really good role for Busio, right? Like we were all unsure who Busio was, right? Is he a 6? Is he an 8? Is he a 10? He even played as a 9, as a false 9 early in the year when Polito was coming back from injury. So I think he's kind of finding his role, and that's another team too where I love the front guys. You talked about Sanchez sort of being a super under the radar, one of the most underrated players in the league. He just does his work. Roger Espinoza is like 87 years old, and he's still winning tackles in the midfield. And Gadi Kinda too is a terrific acquisition and a great job just kind of locking him back up. And I love their front three because they all, or really 4, right? If you include Like you've got Shallowy, Russell, Shelton, and Polito. They all have different roles, but they all do it so well, right? Like no one is trying to do more than what they can do and what they're best at. So they've got some decent depth. Another team though, I'm not loving necessarily their back line or certainly their depth and through a long season that could become an issue. They have Melia back, which is great. He's one of the better shot stoppers in the league. But listen, what I love about Vermees, like I talked about, changing tactically and adjusting, and he's a little more old school, right? Where we know what he's rolling out. He's rolling out a 4-3-3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got the perfect guys to complement that system, and he's just like, look, here's what we have. Go ahead and beat us. And after the struggles of last year, and they're definitely on an uptick. And look, Polito is another guy too, where I think when he is healthy, you've got to put him in the top, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 strikers in the league. So he is healthy, and they are, I think they certainly could be a force to be reckoned with in the West.
All right, Atlanta and Seattle. And, a lot of folks here, when we talked about it on the show yesterday, folks were thinking that it was a draw that felt like a win. Seattle, Brian Schmetzer, after the match, basically said that, Atlanta pinned us in. And, Atlanta made Seattle uncomfortable with how they were doing things. It's a 1-1 draw. What was your thoughts from 30,000 feet on this one?
So a couple thoughts on it. Very entertaining draw. I loved the two teams. We joked about kind of storm clouds, right? But you could see that in the game, right? Like you could see that coming. I thought the Atlanta goal, because even in his on-field interview, Schmetzer was not happy, right? He was upset. And that was early in the second half, where he's like, we're not possessing the ball enough. And they bring Leyva on as sort of that extra guy to help maybe keep the possession in the midfield. But they were right. And they were giving away silly set pieces and some dumb fouls. And you just figured at some point Atlanta was going to find a way to get that goal. And sure enough, Lennon makes a great run off a quality ball from Robinson and is taken down by Smith, and Joseph does what we know what Joseph can do, and kind of, I think I even wrote like in the piece for MLS Soccer, like he kind of went into the time machine and pulled out one of his patented PKs that every keeper seems to hate, right? With the pause, and it's like almost impossible to stop. And yeah, listen, Atlanta is, I was part of the post-match, Zoom press conference. And I even said to Guzan, I'm like, not only are you guys the only team to score a goal at Lumen Field, you're also obviously the only to take a point as well. And, he was quick. He's funny, right? You guys know that. He's like, I'm not a stats guy, but to hear that, that spoke to what Atlanta did there, and they did make Seattle uncomfortable. And he even said, look, maybe on another day when we're a little bit more lucky, that's a win, but that's a huge point on the road, especially in what has become, even if you don't have as many fans yet in the building as you want, one of the toughest places to get anything from in the league, right? So a massive point. I also kind of like, from an Atlanta perspective, this battling, this fight for 90 plus minutes, and it's been rewarded with 2 late goals in back-to-back games. I think that's also a really good sign. And I thought Joseph was funny in his post-game remarks as well, talking about how nervous he was taking the PK, because it's been 2 years, right, since he's been at the penalty spot. So I think a lot of positives to take from an Atlanta perspective. Sure, the fan base will will complain about not creating enough offense or those opportunities, but I think there's enough there to be very happy with. And for Seattle, I think it's an important lesson to learn about kind of playing a full 90 minutes, and they get that second goal, and certainly it's a different game, right? And maybe Atlanta doesn't have the ability to come back, and they just got sloppy in the back where I think they've been really good this year. So I was a bit surprised that was the case for them in the second half, but not surprised at all about Atlanta's a fight and determination to claw their way back in.
It's a big game this weekend at Mercedes-Benz Stadium with Nashville coming to town. Surprised to look, first Nashville undefeated on the season. A lot of draws, but now they're starting to get wins. They haven't given up a goal in seemingly forever. And a player who is under the radar, like I look at SofaScore a lot as kind of my baseline to get numbers and get a sense of teams before I start really studying deep. And Randall Leal is the third highest rated player in MLS this season. Hany Mukhtar was supposed to be the guy for them. Then Jonder Cadiz was supposed to be the guy for them in the attack. Leal has been outstanding this year, and he will cause anybody, including Atlanta, problems out wide with his pace and his ability to shoot from distance.
Yeah, and then you go on the other side, and you've got all of the running that Alex Muyl brings on the other side of it, right? So on both wings, you've got guys who, for different reasons, will cause you problems. And Jason, you're right. You mentioned, right, like we kind of talked about, like, what Nashville is this, right? Like, they're conceding goals left and right, and then they're scoring goals, and are they now kind of back to their old selves, like that? Like, they're not an old team, obviously, but more of that really, really hard to break down defensive team. And I would think, considering you go to Mercedes-Benz and the attacking threat that Atlanta has, I would suspect they would probably be a little more on the defensive and maybe look to hit on counters. But I think there's a lot of, like, cool chess matches inside, the game inside the game in that one that makes it at least from me, from a neutral perspective, a very intriguing game.
So right now, and as you were talking about the Palace intrigue with this one, real quick, the juice boxes, which we refer to as the aspect for folks who wish to perhaps sit there and see a match, and they might put a wager or something on it. Right now,
juice box, of course.
Yes. Just if they see something, with those matchups that we've been talking about. Atlanta United right now is at a plus 120. Nashville is all the way up to a plus 229 as a favorite to win coming into the match this weekend, with your draw even more north of that, around plus 240.
Those are a little surprising early on.
Yeah.
Would have thought that might be a little more even. Yeah. Nashville's really good.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to be a tough match.
So you're saying to put your money on Nashville?
Well, no. That's just the
the draw number is very high for a game that I could see being low scoring, and a game that I could see being really tight.
Yeah, I don't see it. Of course, once I say this, it'll be like a 5-4 game.
Hey,
but
I'll take that.
You and me both, brother.
I think this one has like a 1-0 written all over it.
Feels like it. It does feel like it. Dylan, we could keep you all morning, but you actually do have work to do, so we can't keep you for the rest of the show. What are some of the things you're working on as we get ready for another week of MLS and kind of the last full week for a little while as the international break is coming?
Yeah, no. So one exciting thing that I've got cooking up, and we'll release it on MLSsoccer.com in I guess probably during the break, is I got a chance to do a little bit of a one-on-one exclusive with Jermaine Jones.
Ooh.
Look, we always want to hear what Jermaine Jones has to say, right? So it's don't want to give away too much, but it's kind of on his what he has planned in his post playing career, and and his kind of wanting to get into coaching, and he goes pretty in depth into why he liked to be a coach and why that is his aspiration in his post-playing career. So it was a fascinating interview. I thought it's always great to speak to him, and I think it should be a pretty interesting piece for people to check out. We should drop that, I think, during after this week's games, during that kind of MLS break during the FIFA window.
Okay, I'm going to turn my notifications on because I want to hear about Jermaine Jones' coaching aspirations.
I've never known him to have an opinion on anything, Dylan.
I know. I was surprised at how open he was.
You really had to work to draw a lot out of him, I'm sure. Dylan, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. You on the call for any lacrosse action coming up?
Not today, but I do have a game tomorrow at 7:00. So it's almost like an every other day kind of a thing here. So it's been pretty crazy.
Well, have a good call and have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week, breaking down everything in MLS from the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Be good.
Dylan Butler of MLSsoccer.com. Always appreciate hearing from Dylan, and I'm really excited about that Jermaine Jones interview because I just want to hear what that could sound like. I'd love to hear what he thinks about coaching and what his plans are going to be. I mean, hey, Gattuso was crazy too, and Gattuso's ended up becoming a good manager who should be at Tottenham next year. Jermaine Jones on the touchline in MLS.
Ooh.
I might need this to happen. I might need this to happen for the post-game lulls by itself. That'd be amazing. You might need to turn the field mics down near Jermaine Jones if he is on the touchline in MLS. I do want to hear this. I'm excited. I mean, look, he has said a few things from time to time that have been a little wow. So I'm intrigued to see what Jermaine has to say. That should be a very eye-opening interview from Dylan, MLSsoccer.com, coming up here probably next week once we get into the international break. Okay, it's 10 o'clock, John. We're gonna mix this segment up here very soon. Not quite yet. So you are going to tell us about our good friend Steve Apolinsky, Indicator GA, right now.
Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH Network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, one place you need to go, and it is Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. 3 different ways that you can do it. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com. You can pick up the phone, get a free consultation at 404-377-9191, or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small. Type in aa-legal.com into the address bar. Hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to the homepage for Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. And there is a virtual bevy of information that you can garner about the firm. You can find out about all the different cases that they can handle for you, all the different awards that they have won in over 30 years of work, garnering over $40 million in judgments for their clients in 2 time zones, the Eastern and the Central, in Georgia and Alabama. And if you still have questions, after looking at that bevy of information, there's a pop-up window that pops up, low right-hand corner on the homepage, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 Thank you, Chris Hutchison, for reminding us of that. As always, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. Wrongful death and serious injury matters. One place you need to go. It's Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
You went a little long, John.
Okay.
Just a little.
You started vibing with the
that
the
had nothing to
music.
do with you going long. Don't try to blame it on somebody else.
I thought that you were sitting there. You were just getting down with the music, trying to get me to shut up.
No, I was grooving. It was all good. Domer gave you a very exuberant 10, and that's all you need to know. Don't drop any other words from Domer. He gets you in trouble. Felt like a 7. Weird pause after the pen wag. It's accurate. Sometimes those things do get a little weird. The wagging of pens and fingers gets a little strange at times. It's true.
Just trying to figure out ways to get folks to use the address bar without screwing up my own computer, and that's why I've gone to the Ghost keyboard at eye level.
Ay, Dios mío. -1 coming out of the gate like a banshee. -1 the spirit fingers and hand motions making me nauseous. -1 the pen wag. -2 no pause. Playing a lesser team and didn't bring your best. 4.2345.
So basically, you're saying that it was like somebody from the upper half of the table playing Newcastle and losing.
Alex gave you a 10. Why'd you have to do that? Alex, you should take points off. That was an unnecessary shot.
Early season Newcastle, not the late season.
Yeah, that's trying to repair it, but that's an unnecessary shot. Sharif gives you a 10.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I would say you played down to the level of your competition in that one. I think that's what Sean is getting at.
Wow.
There's expectations for quality out of you. See, Alex, I'm telling you, Alex. 3. That's right. Good job. Good job, Alex. I got you back.
Revisionist history, Alex.
Well, you took shots. Sam missed the whole read, so he gave you a 10.
Thank you, Sam. I'll just take shots at Crystal Palace now.
Let's see who's going to manage Crystal Palace. Very curious to see what happens there. No pause at the end, but pauses throughout. Good question, Ricky. Strange, -2. -2 for blaming Jason for your elongated read. Keep it concise, a 6.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's concise. 6. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of Crystal Palace, an American midfielder, Jacob Montes, is joining Crystal Palace, according to Crystal Palace.
Yeah. And yeah, I saw that from Jonathan Tannenwald just pop up a little bit ago.
Yeah, so things happening for Palace. Don't know who the manager is going to be yet. We will see. There's also things happening in South America that we're going to need to talk about because it could get very interesting in this country and maybe even very interesting in Atlanta, GA. This has been talked about a few different places, but I am referring to Roy Nemer of Mundo Albiceleste. Argentina might not be able to host the Copa America, and it could be moved to the United States. This has been reported out of Colombia, who was supposed to be hosting half of the tournament. They're not able to do that. Multiple reasons, but the social unrest in Colombia is a major reason for it.
Right.
In Argentina, the major reason is the spread of COVID in the country. They put domestic play on hold for a week. Of course, that didn't affect CONMEBOL Libertdores and Sudamericana games, which are going to happen this week. I know, it makes total sense. The semifinals of the Copa de la Liga are supposed to happen on Monday. I think it's Tuesday. Tuesday and Friday, the semifinals and the final on Friday, because they're trying to get it done ahead of World Cup qualifiers, which start right after that. It's going to be kind of hard to do. Reportedly, and Roy at Mundo Albiceleste says that Argentina have been looking into potentially postponing the Copa America by a few days in order to advance the vaccination in the country. I don't know if a few days is going to make much of a difference outside of getting more people first shots and, kind of need to get both. And is that going to change it? Is that going to affect this? They are looking at this, and Blue Radio, Javier Hernandez Bonet of Blog Deportivo on Blue Radio said that the way this is all going, CONMEBOL is looking at the United States to do this. They want to do it in cities where the Gold Cup will not be played. They want to have the Copa America in a place where they can have people in the building and, make that money because they need that money.
Yes.
One place that the Gold Cup is not being played is Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Gold Cup is in the Cotton Bowl. It's in AT&T Stadium. It's in NRG Stadium. It's in BBVA Stadium, so Dallas area and Houston area. It's at Q2 Stadium in Austin. Frisco has Toyota Stadium involved. Arizona, State Farm Stadium in Glendale. Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. Exploria Stadium in Orlando, Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Copa America would be very, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
The revenue that they could potentially make, now they're going to have to sell tickets pretty quickly to get this done. could be very useful for CONMEBOL. So keep an eye on this. It's being reported out of Colombia, Blue Radio in Colombia, and it does make some sense. The Minister of Tourism and Sports in Argentina and Claudio Tapia, the president of the Argentine FA, were involved in the meeting as they're trying to figure out what's going to happen in Argentina, both with domestic play, because you've got 3 games left in the Copa de la Liga. You've got international play with the national team in World Cup qualifiers, and you're hosting a Copa America that you were supposed to host half of it. Now you got to host the whole thing, and now everything's been shut down for a week because of rising COVID cases. It is a mess, as they say. Yeah. Would the U.S. be able to do this quickly and deal with people coming in from other countries and quarantine situations and all of that? Now, all that's changing very rapidly, obviously, as we're seeing in the country with, full attendances in some parts of the country, with mandates going away. I mean, it is a very complicated situation, and I don't know what markets they would look at, because where it would be easier to do this, to have teams come in from South America, they would be coming from South America because there's World Cup qualifiers in CONMEBOL ahead of the Copa America, and they have to get those played, because they're running out of dates. Like, they're going to run out of dates if they don't play those. So it's crazy. So just for right now, so you understand the date situation. June 3rd is the first dates for World Cup qualifiers, and Argentina is hosting Chile in that round. There's games on the 3rd and one on the 4th, with Brazil hosting Ecuador. Then the 8th is the next set of games for World Cup qualification in South America. June 3rd, one on the 4th, and the 8th. Now, the Copa America is set to start, as I'm getting the dates pulled up, that is set to start June 13th, with Argentina hosting Chile, Paraguay hosting Bolivia. It runs through... it's early June or early July. I think it ends when the Gold Cup starts. If I remember correctly, the final of the Copa America is the day that the Gold Cup is set to begin, if I remember right. We do know that Fox is now going to have the Copa America on TV. Fox would probably love it if it's in the United States, because then they could do a lot more with it and maybe monetize it in a bigger way. I don't know, but keep an eye on this. They're going to have to move fast.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to do this, June 13th is the first game that is set. If you keep the schedule that is set, June 13th is where you are starting. That is coming up very soon. Yeah.
And your knockout stages, it would go from the 13th through the 28th. Then your knockout stages are on these dates: July 2 and 3, semifinals July 5 and 6, and your final and your third place game. Your third place game would be July 9th, and your final would be July 10th. So those are the dates that are, as of right now, that's what the schedule layout is. And I mean, and if you extrapolate just a little bit from the venues that you were mentioning earlier, the ones hosting the Gold Cup. So you're looking at Texas, you're looking at Arizona, Nevada, and Florida. So Florida, and Kansas. So Orlando is in use. So Jacksonville, you have an owner of an EFL championship side. I'm sure he'd love to fit something in his venue. You've got Tampa as a venue, as a possible venue city as well. You have Atlanta as an idea. You're looking at the southern footprint. Miami, I'm sure, would be available as well. So there are a handful of markets off the top of your head, if you're extrapolating from the venues that are already being taken, where you could fit some stuff in and do it quickly. And I think that domestically, obviously the fan interest would be there for wanting to see a tournament of this stature. And I think that the United States traditionally has shown that if there is a crunch, it can get things done quickly, just because of how venues and infrastructure and teams and franchises have been able to do these kinds of things in the past. Yes, it's a tall order because you're talking days. It's like, all right, so what can we do? It's an interesting challenge. But yeah, if you're going to do this, you've got to boogie.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be questions about this. Byrne says it's not super smart from a U.S. standpoint. You'd be flying tens of thousands of people into the U.S. from countries with lots of COVID. I realize lots of people are immune here, but still, I would wonder what that would mean for fans coming.
Right.
I would assume that whatever restrictions are in place, they would keep them in place on people flying in quarantine situations. But that's all, honestly, a lot of suggested things rather than legally mandated things on the U.S. front. It's a valid point, Byrne. I don't know what that would look like. I really, truly don't know what that part would look like. The only thing I can really go back to in something like this was 2003 Women's World Cup when it was going to be in China. And on May 3rd of 2003, FIFA announced they would move the tournament to an alternate host country. This was due to the SARS outbreak. They also announced that China would get the 2007 World Cup as a make good. It was May 26th that the U.S. was announced as the tournament's new host. The first matches were played in September. So you had a long ramp up to deal with. You had a long ramp up to deal with for that. This is not that. This is going to be like literally, okay, what stadiums are available? What stadiums can we drop in and play in? And would they play in turf at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, for example? We know Mexico hasn't had a problem with this. Tata Martino hasn't had a problem with this, but you're not going to have time to prepare to bring in grass over top of it or anything like that. So there's and that's just one stadium. Like there's plenty of other venues they could go to. But yeah, it would bring up a lot of questions. It would be very complicated. And I don't know what the best way to deal with it is. I don't know. It is a huge opportunity, and this is the flip side on the U.S. side of this. You've got a lot of venues who need revenue, flat out. There's a lot of stadiums that need revenue. There's a lot of stadiums that had to book a lot of different things to pay the bills during all of this. And if there's an opportunity to have events, even if it is reduced capacity, if they go to that, that's an opportunity for the venue to make money. It's an opportunity for CONMEBOL to make money. And it's an opportunity to have the tournament go off without a hitch. I just don't know if they can get it done logistically in time.
Right.
You're going to be coming off of World Cup qualifiers. You're not going to be able to have any kind of a mandated quarantine period. Is that something that is even in play at this stage in this country with the pandemic and places going back to full open for business, no mandates? I don't know. I don't know what the right way is here. Coming out of those qualifiers, at least from the team perspective, those qualifiers are supposed to be done in miniature bubbles, essentially. Now, we've seen, and the Uruguayan national team was a prime example of where they didn't do that properly, and they had a giant asado and infected most of the group. If they have to do some very careful work with protocols to get those qualifiers done, and then have teams immediately come to the U.S., you're going to play a qualifier in the 8th, potentially going to play your first game in Copa America on the 13th or the 14th. It's going to be tough. I don't know if it can be done on that timeline. I don't know if there's going to have to be a delay. I don't know if a short delay to play it in Argentina is going to make any sense. I don't know if it's going to make a difference.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I truly don't know. I think it's going to be hard as people are suggesting, non-traditional venues. It's going to be hard to do that on short rest. Like if you're looking at a college football stadium that normally doesn't do soccer, stuff like that. I think you're going to have to keep it as simple as possible. Plug and play as much as possible because you're just going to have to drop in and get games done in stadiums that are ready to do games anytime. That's going to limit it a little bit. You're not going to get too far outside the box with this. And, it's going to probably have to be done in areas that are fully back open. And I know there's a lot of those places in the United States with a lot of MLS teams announcing in June that they would go to full capacity. There's enough venues to do it. It's just, can you get it done in time? Yeah. And would it happen with the health component of it, the political component of it? There's a lot to it. There's a whole lot to it, and they'd have to move incredibly fast. Burned with a good question. I don't know the details on this. I'm sure there's been studies on it. Spectators for the Copa America Centenario in 2016, were they mostly domestic or were they mostly tourist? I think they were mostly domestic. There was a large tourist component, which you would not be able to do on short rest here, and for a lot of different reasons. But I think the idea that there would be people who would buy tickets, absolutely there would be people who would buy tickets. People would buy tickets and go if they are able to, and yeah. The good thing about it from a booking standpoint is you would get some of this done during, at least the first games, done during the MLS international break. I know what you're saying about unbooked venues, but the problem is just going to be, do they have the infrastructure to do games?
Right.
And they might not. I mean, for example, like Sanford Stadium in Athens, there was a lot of work that had to go into them hosting the 96 Olympics. There was a lot of prep work. It was not a few weeks of prep work. So has that changed over time? Yeah, probably. Would you have to maybe like give up, for example, the box style goals and have to bring in like big goal frames, kind of the old school way we've seen it done in big stadiums in the U.S. before, to where it doesn't look as good, but you can't put the infrastructure in place to do the box style goals on short rest? I don't know. I'm not sure. Do you bring in the goals like we've seen at Fifth Third Bank Stadium, for example, that are kind of modified box style goals? Stuff like that. Like, it's going to be tough. I would absolutely want to see Ecuador play. I'd love to see Argentina play, Tommy. Like, I'd love to see it from a soccer fan perspective. But, man, there's a lot to do to get this to happen. There's a lot to do to get it to happen in Argentina as well, to be perfectly honest. So I don't know. It's not simply about the hedges for the Georgia lovers and haters out there on the Twitch pitch. It's not simply about the hedges. That was part of it there. But, yeah, there's just so much to do. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And that was why I was trying to think of plug-and-play places that you could parachute in quickly, that already had infrastructure in place, that knew how to handle events.
Well, okay, super quick.
Sure.
Inter Miami Stadium in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. Right.
You could drop in there. It would be available to you. Raymond James in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
You had Toronto play there recently. You could drop in there and do it.
Yep.
Possibly Jacksonville. They've done plenty of games before. I don't think that would be an issue. Of course, Mercedes-Benz, although it's turf. Bank of California, or Bank of America, Bank of California as well, actually both.
Yeah.
Bank of America in Charlotte, Bank of California in L.A.
Dignity.
Yeah, you could do games there too. So if you want to have an LA component to it, you could do that. You've got San Jose and Avaya. If you want to go up into the Pacific Northwest, you've got Portland, but you're dealing with turf. You've got Seattle, Lumen Field, you're dealing with turf. You've got Minnesota available. You've got Soldier Field available, which would make a lot of sense, but I don't know where they are in terms of going fully open by that point. When you look at just the South and look at regions like California, because I believe they've made motions to go to full capacity at Bank of California and Dignity. I know Dignity has. I think it's right after this when they come back from the international break.
I think you're right.
Nashville would be another one. So, I mean, if you did Atlanta, Nashville, Charlotte, Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville, and you did the two LAs, possibly do the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, true.
You could do Avaya if you want one more up a little further north. So just that, you can do the tournament. Just that, you could actually do the tournament. So anyway, Burned, I like it. I like your style. Play the whole tournament in Atlanta.
Yeah, there you go.
With turf, you can do that. Play 4 games a day in a row. Keep the roof closed, so it's cool, and the play would be better than in 90 degrees in Kansas or somewhere else. Yes, Burned, I am hiring you to run this. just because I want to be in the venue for all those games.
Because I'm also trying to quickly add up the number of venues that are being used in that are currently scheduled to use things. So it's Monumental, Malvinas, Kempes, Estadio Único. So that's 4. So it looks like it's 4 venues in Argentina, and you would imagine it would be 4 in a TBD as it's currently listed. So if you need 8 venues basically to pull this off.
As it's currently structured.
Probably
do it less if you needed to.
Yeah. So as it's currently structured, it looks like it's 4 separate venues in Argentina. You would imagine 4 in the other place where it would be. So if you have 8 venues total as it's currently structured, then you'd be okay.
Okay. Let's see how this goes. This will be fascinating to see if CONMEBOL has to move this thing to the U.S. to get it done. Ricky, I would buy whatever pass I need to be there for multiple games like the NCAA tournament. Yes, I would absolutely do that. That would be amazing. I would be so in, but I don't know if this is going to happen. Stay tuned. We do have an update on an SDH favorite. Graham Potter gave an interview at Brighton, because he's still there for now, and was asked about Moises Caicedo. He said, we like him. He has many qualities. He's been settling down, adapting to the country, to the club, to how the league is being on the bench, watching the games. He said the preseason will come at a good time for him. In England, there's a lot of talk about the departure of Bissouma, the starter in that position for Brighton, and that would open up opportunities for Caicedo. Andy Naylor asked Potter about it, and that's where those quotes came from at The Athletic. So Arsenal and Liverpool are looking at Bissouma. He leaves. That would open up the spot for Caicedo. I'm still shocked that he hasn't featured at all for them up until this point, because he did not need to adapt. He did not need an adaptation period. He could have stepped right in and played. We'll see if Potter is the one making those decisions, because he might be elsewhere, like Tottenham. However, Sky Sports is now running with this idea that Mauricio Pochettino could be leaving PSG to go back to Tottenham and keep Harry Kane. And say, yo, Harry, I need you, man. You're going to stay here.
Let's get the band back together.
We're going to do this. Dele Alli, I love you. You're going to stay here. It's all good. We're going to make all this work. Maybe he tries to keep Gareth Bale. I don't know. Madness. It's going to be like this until some of these things get done. Some of these deals get booked. It's going to be crazy. So buckle up. It's going to be crazy potentially on some of these tournaments. Buckle up. Tonight in the Copa Libertdores, a little bit of a rundown of what you're looking at. There are quite a few games. The key ones, River Plate has gotten a lot of players back from their COVID outbreak. They are hosting Fluminense in their group. Santa Fe, who was horrendous in losing to 11-man River and Enzo Perez in goal, they are playing Atlético Junior. It is not going to be in Colombia. The 2 Colombian teams are going to Ecuador to play due to the unrest in Colombia. Junior has a chance to advance because they won in Brazil over Fluminense last week. River should have most people back. If River beats Fluminense, then they would win the group. Fluminense would still be on 8 points. Junior's on 6. If they beat Santa Fe, as they should, they could jump Fluminense and go into the knockouts in the Libertadores, and that would bump Fluminense into the Sudamericana knockout round. 3rd place of the group in Libertadores goes into the Sudamericana. Top 2 go into the knockouts in the Copa Libertadores. Group E, Sao Paulo, Racing, they're both going through. That's already booked. Sporting Cristal and Rentistas of Uruguay, they're playing for a Sudamericana spot. Both of those teams are on the road. Cristal has the point advantage on Rentistas, so Rentistas has to do better than Cristal. I think they have to win, and Cristal has to draw or lose for Rentistas to end up in the Sudamericana, which would be an incredible accomplishment for a tiny little team in Uruguay. Probably not going to happen, but it is a possibility. The Rentistas are on the road at Racing tonight, and Cristal is on the road at Sao Paulo. Group H, the game to watch is Cerro Porteño and América de Cali. They're playing for 2nd place, the 2nd knockout berth. Atletico Mineiro of Brazil is already through. America de Cali has to win. Cerro Porteño, who is hosting the match, only needs a draw to advance. They are currently in the spot by 2 points. Sudamericana tonight, Libertad is likely through to the knockout round. A win would guarantee it. If they don't win, they could get passed by Atletico Goianense or Newell's Old Boys, and Newell's Old Boys would need a lot of help to get through. Group G is a little more interesting. Emelec advances with a win against Talleres. If they don't win and Red Bull Bragantino defeats Tolima, as they should, then Bragantino is through. That's your South American update for tonight.
What juice boxes do you want?
Juice boxes. Give me the juice boxes on, because it's probably the two biggest teams playing one another, River and Fluminense.
Okay, because that one just popped up yesterday. I mean, that was one that was off the board until it finally popped up. River's at a minus 137. Your draw's a plus 271. Fluminense is a plus 358.
Feels about right. Yeah, that just popped up because I think the roster for River Plate is just starting to become a little clearer.
Junior is a big favorite tonight. Atletico Mineiro is a huge favorite at minus 500. The one you mentioned, Cerro Porteño, is a plus 104. Your draw with America de Cali is a plus 238. America de Cali is a plus 267. And Racing and Sao Paulo, obviously, large favorites against Rentistas and Sporting Cristal. Rentistas is a larger underdog by 150 than Sporting.
Okay, John, you're going to have to find out more information on this one. TIC just tweeted out a few minutes ago, Francisco Duarte of Rentistas, he tested positive for COVID on his arrival in Argentina. So he was quarantined in the Hotel de las Americas. Okay. It caught fire last night. He was hanging from the 11th floor to escape the fire, and he was rescued by firefighters. There are images of this from TIC today. Wow, jeez. Yeah, I don't know any more details on this fire at the Hotel de las Americas. Rentistas is in Argentina to play Racing in the match that we just talked about a second ago. But Duarte did escape the fire. He was saved by the firefighters. And I don't know anything else about the fire. It can't really see as much from the video, like how widespread the fire was. But yeah, he was being isolated due to testing positive when he arrived. Man, okay. Did not see that one coming. Did you find anything else about it?
I'm digging it up.
Okay. He wasn't going to factor into the match tonight, I'm assuming. The COVID and the testing rules in South America are very, very hard to follow. As we said, it's a big game for Rentistas because if they win and Cristal in Brazil loses to Sao Paulo and Rentistas beats Racing, who's already through, then Rentistas is into the Sudamericana, which is a very valuable tournament for them financially. So it's a big deal. This is wild.
Nothing yet. Still digging. So I'll see what I can come up with.
Okay,
until the show's over.
Yeah. Well, no, don't worry about it. We'll keep you posted. But he is okay, and he was rescued, and wow, that is a little difficult to deal with as you're getting ready for a match. His teammates have to be slightly distracted. There were multiple players that were at that hotel who had tested positive coming into the country. I've got it now, so don't worry about it. But Duarte was the one in the most precarious of situations. Ovacion has an article about this. They were waiting to find out which strain of COVID they have. 14 days of quarantine in Buenos Aires. They were trying to see if it was the strain from Brazil or from South Africa. Andres Rodales, Damian Malrechafe, and Francisco Duarte had all tested positive coming in. I guess the strain they're trying to determine affects the quarantine as well. Because I think if it is not one of those strains, they can go back to Uruguay. That's what it is. Okay, they're allowed back into Uruguay. if it's not one of those strains. If it is, they've got to stay and do the quarantine before they're allowed back in the country. So, wow. And then on top of that, their hotel that they were in caught fire. They had to move to another hotel. They are all fine and no physical consequences for any of them due to the fire. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. This is what is going on in Argentina, where they are set to host the Copa America in a few weeks. This is why it's being talked about moving potentially, not because of fires and hotels, but because of all of this going on. Doesn't really sound like they're going to be able to host a tournament of any stature. We'll see how CONMEBOL handles this. Okay. That was a big distraction. What do we have on the Twitters today, John?
Pretty light on the Twitters this morning. But the one thing that has popped up from Chris Hutchison and a couple of other folks has to do with media. From Axios about an hour ago, the New York Times is looking into a potential acquisition of The Athletic. 3 sources familiar with the matter tell Axios.
Okay. Dig into that for just a second, John. I will be right back.
Okay. And going to Sarah Fisher's piece, it appears that sources say that, and this is to Sarah Fisher at Axios, the Times approached The Athletic following a report about a potential deal between The Athletic and Axios back in March. The Wall Street Journal reported back in May that The Athletic and Axios were no longer in talks for a potential merger via SPAC, and that The Athletic viewed the Times as a better contender for a merger. And so the Times has been reaching out to former employees to vet The Athletic's business and culture. The Times is eyeing a full acquisition, not a joint venture or a partnership. The Athletic raised $50 million last year in a Series D funding round just before the pandemic, putting their latest valuation around $500 million. So sources are telling Axios, and once again, this is from Sarah Fisher, The Athletic has about 1.2 million subscribers, some on discounted rate plans. The company, according to the Wall Street Journal, is not profitable. They did about $80 million in revenue last year, according to sources. They employ about 600 full-time, 400 editorial staffers. Both The Athletic and The Times. The Times laid off 68 folks, mostly in advertising last June, but still had great growth because of the election cycle. The Athletic laid off just under 50 folks last June, ended up hiring about double that number back last year, according to sources. Most of the hires were in business ops and marketing, once again, as live sports came back to the fore. So the analysis from Axios here is that the deal would help bolster the New York Times subscription strategy, especially if it bundles existing subscription offerings that you get with the Times. And you're seeing right now that the Times is, like most folks, they're offering deals and bargains to try to get you to subscribe. I want to say one that I saw recently was in the neighborhood of $29 to get you on board for a certain amount of time. And what the Times right now has is 8 million total paid subscribers. 7 million of those, or close to 7 million. So you're talking basically 87% of that is just digital. And they're looking to have 10 million digital subscribers 4 years from now. So what you're looking at is if you increase your business by 25% in the next 4 years, you're meeting your goal. I think it's safe to say that the Times would be on pace for that. But if you were to bundle The Athletic into that, you would probably get there just as quickly, if not quicker. And then mentioning once again from Sarah Fisher that if you include the Athletic sports subscription business as a part of that larger bundle, then you can have the Athletic and the New York Times as a part of a larger thing, which we see with multinational businesses these days. The Times, they have subscriptions that are based around certain segments of things, or you can just get the entire thing squared away. And then on an earnings call earlier this month, Times CEO Meredith Kopit-Levien noted that the subscription products combined with differential value and demand advantages of the product should enable the Times to become larger and more profitable as they scale. And so you look at that, and that makes a lot of sense. And obviously the New York Times and the Athletic declining comment on stuff like this. And it also appears that Vox Media has had conversations with the Athletic about a deal, nothing there yet. And Fisher also goes into the deals that have happened in the past, where the Times bought the Boston Globe for $1.1 billion back in 1993. Then they sold it for $70 million in 2013. They bought About.com, sold it to Barry Diller 7 years later at a 25% loss. 2016, they got two marketing agencies that have since folded. They bought Wirecutter back in 2016 for $30 million. They look at that deal as a success. A couple of other deals that have been a lot smaller, something along the lines of The Athletic. The thought from Axios is that if the Times was to proceed with a purchase of The Athletic, they could do so with stock, which is an interesting way to do it, where you're not transmitting any kind of hard cash, you're just shuffling paper. Time stock is performing at its highest level since the early 2000s at just over $7 billion with stock valuations. Their market cap is about 14 times The Athletic's latest valuation. So that's interesting stuff there with Axios. No, Jason Nix. The New York Times has not given us an offer. No New York Times offer for SDH as of yet.
What? What did I miss?
Apparently, Jason Nix has heard that the New York Times was going to go after SDH in addition to The Athletic. That's just what Jason Nix
What are they
going
to, like, I mean, it's going to take a lot of money, first off.
True.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know where they value SDH in terms of the global scale of properties. Wow. I'll have to check on this. I have no sources on that information, Jason Nix. And yeah. I think I would hope.
Yeah. And so cool, broke down the current conversations that apparently are going on between the New York Times and The Athletic, went through the evaluations there and how the thing could be done. But Axios' Sarah Fisher had a great analysis of it this morning, and that was the reference point for all of our discussions that we had over the last handful of minutes.
Excelente. Very curious to see what happens. I mean, just the media business is really, really interesting right now in general. The sports media business is extremely interesting right now with all kinds of different moving parts and how things could look. So The Athletic is one that has tried to go a different route, and it's a hard go. You know, it's a hard go to a full subscription model. Will, that was my Panera has not shown up. It was not Panera this morning, no. It was a Wiley Puppo, who is now in here with me, and you might hear her whining a little bit. She's not happy about the roofers replacing the gutters in the complex right now. They did the roof a few weeks ago, and those look great, and now they have to do the gutters, and Gwen doesn't like all the ladders and people and noises. She's not happy.
Understood about that completely.
Yes. Panera does need to sponsor Soccer Down Here, Perfect Tommy. I totally agree with that. I would like a smoothie and one of their sandwiches on a regular basis while doing the show. It'd be wonderful.
Yep. Also on Twitter this morning to catch us up, GTUTD says, not seeing much talk about how well Atlanta United's playing team defense. We're one of only 6 teams, 5 of which in the East, that have surrendered less than 1 goal per game on average.
Yeah, it's definitely a talking point, and it hasn't really been talked about, which I get. You know, the goal scoring is what's going to get people going, and that's a big topic of conversation as well. But, you know, goals conceded in the Eastern Conference, Orlando's only conceded 2, which is ridiculous, 3 wins and 3 draws. Nashville's only conceded 4, 2 wins and 4 draws. Atlanta United's conceded 5, 2 wins and 3 draws. Columbus has only conceded 5, 2 wins and 2 draws. And that's it in the East. New York City, 6 goals conceded in 6 games. They are 2-2 and 2. Look at the goal scoring in the East as well. And I'm taking GTU's tweet and twisting it a little bit. Leading goal scoring teams in the East, New York City with 11. They're in 6th place. Mm-hmm. New England with 10. They're leading the conference. Then it's Montreal with 9. They've also conceded 9. 2 teams have 8. Miami, they've conceded 10. Red Bulls have conceded 9. They've each scored 8 goals. They are all outside of the playoff picture right now. Then with 7 goals scored, Orlando scored 7. They've been even better defensively than Atlanta. That's why they have 3 more points. Nashville scored 7. They've been 1 goal better defensively than Atlanta. That's why they have 1 more point. That's it. Atlanta's got 7 goals. So Toronto scored 7. They've conceded 10. The East is stingy.
Yes.
Like right now, the East is very, very stingy. It's a tricky one. So this game on this weekend with Atlanta and Nashville, it's 2 really good defensive teams. After our conversation with Dylan Butler, this is kind of where my head's been. I think it's 2 good teams that are going to make it difficult for each other to score. Who can break through? I think it's going to be a 1-goal game. I don't expect a ton of goals in it, but I think it's going to be a very narrow match. And both teams have things that can hurt the opposition, and both teams have to be careful about things. It's going to be a fascinating one. I like the chess match that Gary Smith and Gabriel Heinze could be having on Saturday afternoon at the Benz.
Breaking news sounder, please.
Well, okay then. Breaking news right about now.
Your hype train apparently is not going to happen.
What?
According to Fabrizio Romano, Fiorentina have reached an agreement with Gennaro Gattuso. Done deal. He'll be the new head coach after leaving Napoli, confirmed.
It makes the most sense. I can't hate on it too much. Florence is really nice. It's really, really nice. I mean, Pochettino's going to go back to Tottenham anyway, so what does it matter? Yeah, I get it. I get it. I'm sad, but I get it. I would have loved to have seen Gattuso unleashed upon the Premier League, but not going to happen yet. He will go to Florence, and we'll see how things go with Joe Baroni, with Rocco Camiso, and Gennaro Gattuso. Those are 3 very outspoken folks. That could get very, very interesting with some of the commentary and such.
All those post-match pressers are going to be fun.
Yes, they could absolutely be a must. Nick Alifi is sitting around smugly somewhere. He called it. He said it was going to be Florence. Nick Alifi was 100% correct. I have posted a link in the Twitch pitch, and I have also retweeted it right now for our trivia contest tonight. Soccer in the Streets. We are hosting the trivia tonight from 7 to 9. Myself and John Nelson are your quiz masters today. All you have to do is make a donation to be part of it. Any donation gets you a link into playing. There are prizes on the table. $200 worth of gift cards to the Queen's Pantry can be won along with cash prizes.
All right.
Queen's Pantry is awesome, by the way. If you are looking for your traditional British goods, the Queen's Pantry is one of your places to look at for that. All of the money that is raised goes towards supporting free youth soccer programming and leadership opportunities with Soccer in the Streets. So tonight, 7 to 9, you make a donation, you get the link to play. You will need the Kahoot app. It's very, very easy. It's all multiple choice, so it's not something where you have to get too hung up on, I don't know everything, and I can't pull the answers out of my head, and it's going to be tough, and I'm not going to have time to look things up. No, it's multiple choice. Have some fun. John's done well in this before. He's done so well that now he's a quizmaster.
John has even figured out how to download the Kahoot app.
If John can figure out how to download the Kahoot app, anybody can figure out how to download the Kahoot app. So, yes, not the most technologically advanced John on the Kahoot app, and he figured it out. So, all good on that. Please join us if you can.
Patrick, I am not a trivia ringer by any stretch of the
imagination. No. And he was not given anything beforehand or he would have won. And he didn't. So he had at least one really good performance. But hopefully you can join us. We've got some pop culture questions in there. We will have some national team stuff from all the different national team competitions, probably some Champions League stuff as well, a current events round, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully you can join us for that. 7 to 9 tonight. You will need Zoom, and you will need the Kahoot app, and we will see you for that as we raise money for the kids of Soccer in the Streets. Also,
do we want to tell folks what my round is?
No.
Okay.
No, it's a surprise.
Okay.
You have 2 rounds, by the way.
I do. Oh, that's right, I do. Okay.
Yeah, it's a surprise. Also, what we are doing this week in the Soccer for Good space is we are raising money for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Atlanta as they get their summer camps back underway. We are kicking off summer with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Atlanta. They're finally able to do a normal summer, and they're finally able to have kids interact, and they're able to get them playing soccer, and they're able to get them doing some STEM sessions and educational opportunities there. They're doing art. They're doing all kinds of different things, but most importantly, they're getting kids back together in a safe space to do it. It's huge for development. I know a bunch of you guys have seen this with your own children, just how challenging it's been with virtual school and not having interaction. And the Boys and Girls Clubs are trying to get that back and kickstart a summer of something resembling normalcy. So we're trying to help them do that. We have a goal of trying to raise $1,000 this week for the Boys and Girls Clubs. Hopefully you can possibly help us do that. You can go to givebutter.com/BGCMA summer for more info about everything that the Boys and Girls Clubs are doing with their summer programming. Also, you can see how we're doing on our fundraising, but there's a QR code on the screen as well if you're looking for more information. So givebutter.com/BGCMA summer for all of your info and to make a donation to the local Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Atlanta. Hopefully you can join us for that as well and help more kids. We're trying to, as we've said many times, try to shine a light on exciting things going on in the soccer world. We also try to use whatever form of a platform that allegedly, maybe, possibly, according to Jason Nix, the New York Times might be interested in. We are trying to use whatever platform we have to try to do good and bring good into the soccer world. And if the New York Times wants to be part of that, that would be amazing too. Mm-hmm. It'd be great. So that's where we're at. Soccer in the Streets trivia tonight. Boys and Girls Clubs in Metro Atlanta all week. We're trying to raise money for them. Thursday, we will be back out on site at Anderby Brewing for a special edition with Rush Union, with the local chapter of the Manchester City supporters, and also Neil McNabb Sr. and Neil McNabb Jr. Neil McNabb Sr. was a player of the year for Manchester City in the 80s, a legend at the club. He will be on site, available. He's going to take pictures. It's going to be great to see him. And it's going to be great to talk to Neil McNabb Jr. about, everything going on at that time with City and what it was like at that point. The rise of Manchester City is a pretty wild story in and of itself, from where they were at that time to where they are now, going into a Champions League final, trying to win that for the first time. We'll get into all of that, along with all the other usual shenanigans on a live show and all the other shenanigans that can happen between now and then. That show's from 6 to 8. Join us at Anderby Brewing. Some cool specials on site if you can join us, some cool giveaways. We hope to see you there. It will be broadcast on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. That's a lot of stuff. We're trying to keep busy.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep busy around here.
Yeah, and, obviously we'll have all of our specialty reports. Early returns from the Top Tier Tuesday question this morning.
Yes. Who are your favorites to win the Euros this summer?
It looks like favorites are France and Belgium, and it looks like the second favorites are Croatia, Germany, and England. Sorry, England.
That's about where I was figuring. I know there's some people hyping up on England. Gareth Southgate did his preliminary roster that he has to cut down today. Were there any surprises in that for you?
I think really the only one for me was Eric Dyer being left off. I know which Trent Alexander-Arnold was in, but I think for me, Dyer was the only one that really was a surprise for me. Considering that you said club over country for me at the beginning of the show.
No, you said that, not me.
Well, so you were you said club over country. I just said that I focus on teams, and you came up with club over country, which was the appropriate catchphrase for it. But now, for me, I think Dyer was really the only surprise so far, because once again, you're dealing with, I think, 33 names, I think, that Southgate put out there initially. And so once you get from 33 and you trim it, then I'll have a a more interesting answer. But right now, of the 33 that are there, Dyer not being a part of that 33 for me.
Yep, that was the one that caught a few people by surprise. Some other news from English clubs. This is being reported by Patrick Berger of Sport 1. Liverpool will not activate the release clause of €23 million on Ozan Kabak, who is wanted by Leicester City and RB Leipzig. He is going back to Schalke, it seems like, and somebody will pick up that release clause. But it looks like Liverpool will not do that. That one was a little surprising.
Yeah, I mean, it took a little while. I mean, he was thrust into a very difficult situation with all the injuries at the back and trying to have to instantly assimilate into a back line for Liverpool. And he did have some rough goes in a couple of matches early on. So I can understand, one, that desire not to activate it, and two, if you're bringing folks back healthy, then it would be a numbers game on the back end of that as well. So I can understand that move. We saw what Leicester was able to do in bringing in guys like James Justin and Kaliar Soyuncu, who were those kinds of purchase orders that are probably in that 23 million vein. You know, they're not breaking the bank to bring in guys. And so that was one of the things that Brendan Rodgers was pretty pleased about this past season, was finding guys that fit the economics of Leicester City. And if Kabak is one that could do that, it would be an interesting pickup to shore up the back for him next season.
One other one to keep an eye on for another English club, Manchester United. It was reported that Jadon Sancho will be allowed to leave Borussia Dortmund. We know that was a big chase. Stefan Benkovsky writes for The Independent and others, is also reporting that Borussia Dortmund have announced that they expect to make a loss of €75 million for the 2020-2021 financial year. Follows a loss of €44 million from the previous financial year. Obviously, both are severely impacted by Dortmund not having people in the stands. But you lose over €100 million in 2 years, and you have gotten back into the Champions League, which was critical for your financial bottom line. But you got to make up some of that money somewhere. And Jadon Sancho is going to go. I don't know what the number is going to be. It's not going to be what they were talking about last year. It's going to be something underneath that. And the conversation on the Manchester United side has gotten to where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants Sancho. He's going to try to bring Sancho in, but others are saying they should go in a different direction and go get somebody else. We'll see what happens. But Jadon Sancho, I would assume, will be sold somewhere.
Yes.
As soon as they can get a check, because that's a lot of money to lose over a couple of years. And they're not going to be the only clubs in that situation. There's going to be quite a few who are going to be stuck in this, where you're looking at 9 figures of losses over a couple of years that got to get made up somehow. And how? Selling players. How many clubs are going to be in positions to buy? That will be the question. There are some. There are absolutely some. And there are some who, if they're not in a position to buy straight up, they're in position to borrow money to buy. And that's where it will be. Very curious to see who else could be sold from Dortmund. It sounds like they are really holding on to the idea that Erling Haaland will play, not out his contract, because his contract is longer, but play this upcoming year in Dortmund before the release clause kicks in, and he could be transferred out for, I think, €75 million. That's what it looks like.
And, fan vote for Player of the Year came out this morning in the Bundesliga.
Yes.
And it went to Erling Haaland.
Well, that's not a shock.
Over Lewandowski. So Erling Haaland is your fan-voted Bundesliga Player of the Year. That came out this morning as well.
Not a huge shock. He is a monster who enjoys monstering, as has been said, which I still love that clip. It's one of the greatest things ever. Byrne talking about the Bundesliga and Premier League teams. He is 100% correct. He says, it will never not amuse me. EPL teams not playing their young players, then losing them to the Bundesliga, then buying them back at 50 million plus. Yep.
Absolutely.
It's bad business, but it is the reality of what's going on. Europa League final tomorrow, Manchester United and Villarreal. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said that he expects Harry Maguire to just jog down the side at training shortly. That doesn't sound good. He was also asked about the major difference between this final and 1999 in the Champions League final. He said, "We flew by Concorde in 1999." That's a little different.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was 1999. It was big
I
times,
know,
heady
just,
times.
Flying by the Concorde,
Yeah, well, they had that kind of bank then, and it was a Champions League final. The Europa League final, you don't fly by the Concorde. Sorry. Probably a nice plane, but not the Concorde.
Just get there safely, have your match, turn around, and go home.
Yes, Manchester United is a big favorite in that one. That was one of our picks of the week. If you listened to Soccer Over There last night, we are having to get a little creative on some games right now because we're in between competitions. Oh, here's Jarrett coming back in for a very quick drop in. Jarrett, what are your questions, sir?
The games we're having to pick from.
Well,
come on.
Look at what's on the board, Jarrett. Just look at the options.
Shenyang Urban Beijing Tech?
Beijing Tech, yep.
Did you make these up?
No. Beijing Tech is real. They have moved up from the college ranks in China. They're in the second division now, I believe.
They're in the Xia League.
The Xia League? Okay.
Yeah, there's the Xia League and the Yi League.
How do you spell that, John?
Jia. Xia.
Okay. They are moving up in the world. They've went fully professional, Jared. It's a big story. BIT, the Beijing Institute of Technology.
Okay.
I'm just saying. It's a big game. It's a huge game.
It is.
Two teams. That you throw the records out when those two
throw the record books out when those two go at it.
100%. Yes, Turner. Turner says, you can get promoted from college. I want that for the U.S. now. Clemson goes pro.
God. Don't even,
Well, hey, BYU decided not to play college for a while, and they did a USL League 2 team when it was the PDL.
That is true.
They did that for a while. They thought that was the better route. They didn't do NCAA soccer. Now they've reversed it and they went back. Teams could do NPSL or League 2 or UPSL or what have you. Jared, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to kick you out again.
That's okay. Yeah. I had complaints. I'll fill out your
sheet,
like the sheet, but I just had complaints, so I'm going to leave now. But I had to voice my complaints.
Okay, no, that's fair.
Hold on.
I'm sorry. Actually, you're going to have to skip out on that first game because it's already been played.
Oh,
so you don't have to worry about Chinese Xia League.
Yeah, you just have to take the L there.
I'll just go over 6 with an unofficial sixth one.
Yes, Beijing Tech lost this morning 3-2.
Okay,
it's very sad for my BIT squad. They lost 3-2.
Apparently,
yeah, not good. So pick your other 5 and send it in to John so he can get it updated. And there you go.
Will do.
Thanks, Jared.
Bye.
All right. It's that time of the week. It is 11 o'clock on Tuesday. That means it is time for the USL League 1 check-in.
Welcome to USL League One Weekly here on Soccer Down Here. In the next little while, we will let you know what happened with Team of the Week, what happened last week. We'll get you set for the matches coming up this week in USL League One and give you Team of the Week a lot of honors and some really cool stuff going on. But we are joined by our guest this week. Hello, Coach. It is Jimmy Obleda, head coach and technical director of the Chattanooga Red Wolves, hanging out with us here on Soccer Down Here. Coach, it is John and Jason. Good morning, and thanks for hanging out with us.
Hey, how you guys doing? My pleasure.
Well, Coach, let's start things off and going back to last weekend. So far, the L column for you, there's a big 0 on it. You got a big result on the weekend. Some of your takeaways from what happened last time out.
Well, I mean, I think the excitement of playing at home and having our first game of the season under the lights, to be able to get the result against a team that had been they just got a big win, the week prior, a 5-1 victory. So for us to have all those factors involved and be able to get an important result, in pretty much the last play of the game, was very satisfying for the group and I think for everyone that attended.
Coach, I want to get into a little bit with you about some of the roster moves coming into this year. There were some surprising additions with the Red Wolves, and I'm excited to see more of this team. How have you found it after a couple of years at the helm in Chattanooga now, recruiting players to come play for the Red Wolves in League One? How have those conversations changed now that the club is getting established?
Well, that's a good question. I think the conversation always starts with, if you come play for us and play, we're going to be a certain type of soccer team. We're going to be a certain type of individual. We want a certain type of individual. So we always start with that, with the person that we're looking to bring in, and do they fit kind of our culture and our DNA. And then from there, we say, look, you come here, look at everything. If it works for us, look at all the things that the club is building. The club's very ambitious in the stadium that's building, the development, and everything that it's doing. And this could be, especially for young, hungry players, I think that's been a focal point in the players we've brought in, for young, hungry players that strive to move up in this level, or even players that want to win something. I think it's very enticing for them to see everything, the seriousness of the club and the seriousness of ourselves in what we how we want to play the game, and how we want people to see the game being played when they come to the stadium. So it's been those conversations with players, and I want to be honest also to say that, if players don't want to be here, we don't beg anybody. You know what I mean? We want players that want to be here, that take pride in wearing our badge, and that they're not doing us a favor, in coming and playing for us. In fact, it's a common goal to do what needs to be done to be successful. So, those are very frank and fair conversations with players that are honest and open, and the ones that believe in it and want that are the ones that eventually we end up signing.
Coach, when you look at the first handful of matches of the season, obviously 2 wins and a draw for you, where do you think you are as a group right now? I know that you look at a team like Fort Lauderdale, they've already got 7 matches under their belt. A lot of folks, Tormenta's got 6, handful of teams, barely getting started. Toronto FC's just on the board, Forward Madison. Where do you think you are right now after your first 3 matches?
We're not close to where we need to be from a soccer standpoint, collectively, tactically. From a fitness standpoint, we're still getting our 90-minute legs under us, or 95-minute legs under us. Where again, Fort Lauderdale was our third official game as a group, and considering we brought in 15 new guys, and we still have players that have not even touched the field yet because of injuries that they obtained in the preseason, or are still coming back from last year. So I would say we're still quite a distance away, and we're very conscious of that. Our goal is at this moment to really try to get good results and really keep ourselves in that high upper half of the group, and hopefully start, as we believe that as the season progresses and as we start getting into August and September, we're gonna be flying, and probably a little bit prior to August. But that's our objective. By the time we're getting into the playoff runs, that the team's full swing, and we found we're peaking at the right moment. I said this before. You don't win the championship in May or April. You win it in October when you're getting to the final round. So we're still quite a ways away, and we're hoping that every week we get a little bit better and get there as quick as possible to where we need to be.
Coach, now that you've had a couple of years in Chattanooga, first off, my dog is obviously very excited about the Red Wolves conversation this morning. Sorry about her timing on that one. But second, like, it's such a talent-rich area, and I know from your background, you're a coach who looks at developing young talent. You know, how are you seeing that young talent, and are you starting to see it where maybe very soon you're going to see more local players that you guys have developed through Academy, through the Dalton Red Wolves in League Two, that make the jump up to the first team and start to play significant roles?
Yeah, well, I mean, the majority of my career as a coach has been working and developing young players to move up in level, if it's college or professional. So, you know, I've kind of been pretty lucky in having a good eye for what players need and to be successful and to be able to make that jump. So I'm seeing it. I saw it actually last week. I went to watch our USL 2 team, the one in Dalton. There's a couple of young players that we've put on that team to, again, continue to speed up their development as soccer players. And we only see, again, you know, we have Christian Zaragoza, who's a young man who we see is going to definitely have some minutes this year, be able to play for us. And there are some younger ones that are coming through the pipelines that we're looking at and keeping an eye. It's all the key and the idea for me is you see it too often where these young men, these young kids, oh wow, he's very talented, but they're still lacking something. But we still throw them out there to the dogs and to the wolves to kind of sink or swim to survive, and that's not what it is. It's about giving them little moments and, you know, sprinkling their minutes here and sprinkling their minutes there until they grow into the role and the responsibility that they need to play at, or they're being asked to play, so that they can have a long career. Because the last thing you want is to throw a young man out and you know, he doesn't do well, you know, the first game or two, and you've lost them. So it's about picking the right ones and making sure that they're successful and having those careers. So we're looking at those guys. We have a few of them in the club, and we're just finding the right moments to get them in.
You know, your time there in Chattanooga just before Thanksgiving 2019 was when you were brought online to be a part of USL League One. What has your experience been like in USL League One since you were announced as a part of the Red Wolves community? And what's it been like to see USL League One grow to where it is now? What's been your takeaways from being a part of USL League One for the last year and a half?
Oh, wow. I mean, I think the main thing for me is the professionalism of USL League One, the professionalism of the teams, the professionalism of the organization that I'm a part of, the ambition of what the league wants to be, and the growth, and really just trying to do, not just have a league to have a league, but to have a league that's going to have some quality games and quality players and quality teams in it. I think the growth that I've seen in the year and a half that I've been has been in the quality of the soccer player. From the first year that I remember, I watched most of the League One games on ESPN Plus. I think the league has become younger, it's become more dynamic, more explosive. I would argue that the quality of the games, the speed of play, has improved tremendously, and I only see that getting better as younger players come in, or players that perhaps maybe didn't get opportunities with their MLS clubs or at higher levels. I mean, if you look at a lot of our league, I think our league's mostly 25, 26-year-olds, kind of almost like the average age. So I'm seeing, again, that's going to become the trend of the players, that this is going to be a league that players want to really do well, that's going to open up doors for players to move up. And again, the growth of the league, I mean, I'm impressed every day with what I see in the conference calls I'm on, and listening and hearing what the direction the league's going in. So I think it's the seriousness and the professionalism and really the commitment from everyone, the organizations and the league, to really put a great product out there for the fans.
So we look ahead to this weekend. Red Wolves hosting Richmond at 7 o'clock on Saturday. For people who are hearing about the Red Wolves and interested in either coming out to check it out or watching on ESPN+, who are a couple players on your side that they should keep an eye on?
Well, I think, one who scored the winning goal yesterday, Jason Ramos, a young man who's really stepping into the position we've had to put him in. Unfortunately, again, like I said, we've had some injuries, and he's had to take the role as the sixth presence. Just really has a competitiveness to him, a leader, a young man, but a true leader. I think Josecito Carrera, Garcia, I would argue probably one of the better players, one of the best players in the league, just technical, his vision, and his ability to just play and get everyone connected. And then the other one would probably be Ricardo Ruiz, a young man who last year was second team all league in the championship in the USL League One, and he's actually playing very, very well. And finally, España. Josue España is our leading scorer at this moment. The young man's on a bit of a tear. So, you'll see if people that come and watch the game, the quality and the type of players that we have that, again, very dynamic, very explosive, that really we want fans to come and enjoy the soccer that they're seeing the players perform on the field.
So, Coach, it's been a year since CHI Memorial Stadium came online, and now you're seeing this very ambitious project by the Red Wolves. It's growing and growing and growing. What was it like last weekend to have a lot of folks there to see what you've been building over the last year and a half there in Chattanooga? What's it like having folks back in the seats?
Well, I don't know if I could really express what it felt like. There was 2,000 something people, and it was a whole different environment the previous year where we had to play at 12 o'clock at noon, 12 noon, and it was just a different environment with COVID, even though we were getting, I want to say like 600-700 people a game, but to have 2,000 plus yelling, screaming, the lights, the environment, the smoke, the red smoke, there's a few times in your life that you could say you're a part of something special or that you were involved in something that's significant, and the fact that I was able to live that and see what it is or what it was Saturday night was I feel very special and very blessed. And the other part is I'm only going to imagine what it's going to be when the stadium's fully built out. 2,000 is going to be an afterthought. Because what that stadium's going to be like when it's fully built, both sides and everything around it. I called it the other day. I'm going to call it the Mecca of soccer in the South, because it's going to be something like nobody's seen, not in this part of the country, and I don't know if in many other parts of the country.
Well, Coach, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for breaking things down. I know that you're having to balance getting ready for Richmond this upcoming Saturday, in addition to trying to practice in the heat, and I know that your time is very valuable. Thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH. We'll be keeping an eye on things up there in Chattanooga with the Red Wolves. Thanks for being a part of USL, our USL League One weekly coverage. We'll be catching up with you soon. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, and have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Jimmy Obleda, head coach, technical director of the Chattanooga Red Wolves, hanging out with us here for USL League One Weekly. And Jason, we get into Team of the Week from last week. Player of the Week, Garrett McLaughlin from Toronto FC2. Now, for those that may not remember, Toronto FC2 is playing their games out at Casa Grande in Arizona. So that's how they're getting their sea legs under them, and their schedule just got underway, something that we got into with Coach Obleda. There are some folks who are 6 or 7 games in. Toronto FC2 finally came online last week.
Yeah, Josue España from the Red Wolves in that Team of the Week. He scored the first goal on the night, 3 goals in the last 2 games. He created an additional chance as well. Jason Ramos, who had that game-winning goal, as Coach Obleda told us, one of those important players to watch. He passed at a 90% success rate. What was interesting talking to Obleda was the idea of who the player is in League One, who are the top players, what is the player profile? And it is around that 25, 26-year-old who maybe didn't get those opportunities coming out of academy, maybe didn't get those opportunities going into even the USL Championship, but players are showing what they can do and making that jump out of strong performances in League One. And I think you see that a little bit with this team of the week. Guys who we've talked about before at the championship level and at the League One level who are continuing to impress. Akira Fitzgerald of the Richmond Kickers at goalkeeper, Tyler Polak of the Greenville Triumph on the back line. Don Smart has been around both leagues for a long time. Now he's in Greenville, one of the Team of the Week members. You're seeing some guys who are being put in positions to shine in League One. And the guys on the Team of the Week are the ones who are stepping up. But it's also a league where you have a Toronto FC 2, you have a New England Revolution 2, you have teams that are development teams like North Texas that are playing really young, exciting players as well. Justin Che was a Team of the Year player last year at 16 in North Texas. Now he could be at Bayern Munich next season. Like, you've got both sides of that. And what's fascinating to me, and it's why I ask the question, when the independent teams are able to bring in some of these players who give you that experience, who give you that mentorship for the young talent, but when they're able in markets like Chattanooga, that is a talent-rich area of guys who maybe haven't had that door open to them to be professionals. When these clubs are able to do that, build out the academy, get guys coming through the League Two side of things, and then moving up into the opportunity to play in League One professionally, money on the line, salaries being paid. It's a game changer for American soccer as a whole. And I think you're going to see that happen more and more. It takes time. This is a young league, and it's a league that had to deal last year with a catastrophic pandemic. And they're still growing, and the level is good. I highly recommend when you're flipping around. I know a lot of you guys watch MLS and watch the other MLS teams, occasionally watch a championship game. We talk about it. If there's a time in between games or the game you're watching is kind of meh, go to League One on ESPN+. You're already there for other things. Go to League One, pick out a game, look at the scoreboard, something that looks like a compelling one that's getting into the second half. Pop it up and watch these matches because the level is very good. The intensity is very good. It's a lot of opportunity that is being created through this league, and it's exciting to see that come to the fore. And Chattanooga is a prime example. And look, we don't hide from the fact that you've got two professional teams in Chattanooga that are providing those opportunities. One's in a different league, same level, different league. There's different avenues for young players now that were never there before. Teams don't all have to do the same thing. Teams don't have to develop the same way. Different clubs can have different philosophies and different development models. This is great. This is good for the country as a whole in this sport. But what the Red Wolves are doing, what Greenville's doing, what Tormenta's doing, it's exciting just in our neck of the woods to see this flesh out. And I can't wait to see that, that first player for Chattanooga Red Wolves who goes through that entire pipeline, a guy that we might have seen at Dalton High School, might have seen at Southeast Whitfield or Coahulla Creek. They get that opportunity to go up and play first in Dalton at League Two and then move up the ladder to Chattanooga and play in League One. That's the success story that I just can't wait for. But this is a league you should keep an eye on. Absolutely. There's good talent here.
All right, let's take a look at the standings as we head into the weekend. And we got to talk to Coach a little bit about his matchup that's coming up. Greenville and Union Omaha, top two, played 2 matches back, got the draw on national television. Greenville's at 13 points through 5. Union Omaha's at 10. Fort Lauderdale CF has already played 7 matches. They have 9 points on the year. They're third. Richmond, 2-2-1. They're at 7 points. So this one should be a challenging matchup, especially for Chattanooga going up against a keeper like Akira Fitzgerald. Chattanooga is 5th at 7 points through their first 3 matches. North Texas right now is the team that is the 6th. They would be, if the playoffs, if you start your cliche, if the playoffs started today, North Texas would be number 6 with 6 points. Then you've got Forward Madison, who's only played twice. They've got a win and a draw in their first 2 matches. New 2, New England Revolution 2, they are at 4 points as well. Toronto FC 2 with their win on the board. Tormenta and North Carolina FC and FC Tucson round out your standings. Tormenta is at 1 win through 6 matches. North Carolina FC and FC Tucson each have 1 point in their first 3 matches coming up through this schedule so far.
Yeah, it's been a slow start for Tormenta, 3 straight losses. Definitely questions about how it turns. They were competitive with Greenville Triumph, who's the top team in the league, but couldn't get a result at home against a top team for Tormenta. There's more expected, but I think what you're seeing this year is 2 teams like Richmond and Chattanooga who have invested, who have put more into it to field a more competitive team, and it's showing so far, being in playoff spots. Greenville and Union Omaha were there last year. They're there again. That's no surprise. The second teams are going to be up and down. North Texas is a little more down at the moment, losing 3 out of their last 4. Fort Lauderdale is very up and down, win-loss, but a very talented group. We know the talent in South Florida, and if Inter Miami and Fort Lauderdale CF are able to start bringing that through, you're going to see local guys making the jump from Academy to League One and then to MLS in their scenario. Same for New England Revolution 2, for Toronto FC 2. You're going to get those ups and downs. North Carolina FC kind of, revamping a bit, moving down from the championship, really focusing on that local talent as they go forward. They need a little bit of time to get used to that scenario. But Tormenta and Tucson are 2 that are right now, have to be asking questions about what is their next step. What is the next pathway for them? Is it talent? Is it developing more of the local scene? Is it, what is their niche going to be in this league? Because you've got really talented independent teams, and you've got, opportunities for a Fort Lauderdale, for a North Texas, for a New England, for a Toronto, that they have talent coming through. It's just young and untested and still learning. So how does a Tormenta compete? How does a North Carolina compete? How does a Tucson compete? Those are the things that I'm looking at with this league and wondering what they do in response.
Busy schedule this week coming up for USL League One. We actually have games on Wednesday. Breeze Stevens gets to host Forward Madison and Union Omaha, and believe it or not, we actually have juice boxes attached to that game. You've got Forward Madison at a plus 231 and the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Your draw is a plus 229, no real surprise. Union Omaha is a plus 102. Also on the schedule this week, you're looking at Toronto FC 2 at Grande Sports Park out in Arizona. They're going to be hosting FC Tucson. That's a late night, so you're going to have USL League One After Dark on Wednesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Friday at Gillette, you're going to have New England Revolution 2 at 5 o'clock hosting Fort Lauderdale CF. Then a busy 4-match schedule on Saturday at Globe Life at 5:30 Eastern, North Texas SC hosting Toronto FC 2. So Toronto FC 2 playing in Arizona on Wednesday night, then having to come to Dallas to play North Texas on Saturday afternoon. We mentioned the Chattanooga matchup at CHI Memorial hosting Richmond. That's at 7 Eastern, also at 7 Eastern at Wake Med. North Carolina FC hosting FC Tucson. So we mentioned FC Tucson. They're having to travel even further for a match on Saturday. And then at 7 o'clock on Saturday night, it is South Georgia Tormenta hosting Forward Madison. So there's going to have you've got 3 teams here that are looking at 2-match weeks. And it's going to be a travel aspect where the home teams might be able to take advantage of some matchups here this week.
North Carolina and Tormenta absolutely have to take advantage of that travel and midweek games for Tucson and Forward Madison. The games I'll be peeking in on and very intrigued to see how they go. Madison and Omaha, Wednesday night. Madison, 2 games, undefeated so far. Omaha, more games, undefeated so far. Is Forward Madison for real and competitive this year? That's a huge test for them at home. And then that Chattanooga-Richmond game. 2 independent teams up playing in Chattanooga. I'm excited to see if the Red Wolves can keep this train going, or if Richmond, who has been really impressive, it's been a while for the Kickers to be at kind of this level. They've struggled a little bit, first in the championship and then dropping down to League One. Can they establish themselves? This feels like a game of 2 teams that are trying to establish themselves among the elite. Which one does? The Madison-Omaha game is the same thing for Madison. Are they a team that you have to watch this year and is a contender to get into the postseason. Maybe we'll learn a little bit more after this week.
A couple of other notes before we go. Don't forget to vote for the goal of the week. Go to USL League One ONE, USLLeagueONE.com. You can vote for goal of the week and get your fan choice in there for goal of the week. And your choices are the Jason Ramos goal, the Mario Salomas goal from Greenville, and the Garrett McLaughlin goal for Toronto FC2. So you can go to USLLeague1.com, vote for the fan goal of the week. And also one note for a team that will be coming online. Central Valley Fuego FC announces that Capelli Sport is going to be their official apparel partner. So more news out of Central Valley as they continue to get closer to coming online in future seasons. That's all the news I have, Jason. What's left on your plate?
Capelli Sport's getting really aggressive right now and snapping up lower division teams. They're also doing pro referees as well now, Capelli Sport. It's a good get for Fuego. I'm excited to see the league continue to grow. I enjoyed, we did our watch along for games on Saturday night and had Greenville and Tormenta up. You know, it's a bad result for Tormenta at home, but it was a really interesting match and a compelling match. And you got the late winner from Marius Lomas. Excited to see how this league continues to grow. Loved hearing from Coach Obleda and everything going on in Chattanooga. I am really pumped about where things are headed for League One, and just, you know, love that we're able to take a little bit of time and talk a little more in depth and talk to some of the key figures, you know, at the different clubs and at the league office to learn more about it. So hopefully this is something that is, you know, interesting to you guys out there listening, but also maybe piquing some interest of, hey, buying a ticket to go in to see a match. I'm with Bern Dursberger on the Twitch pitch. These games in person are amazing. Because of the intensity, because of guys who are trying to prove themselves. And it's in a small venue. You can hear everything on the field. You can see everything that's happening really up close. It's great for kids to get that, you know, maybe first glimpse of guys that can be role models for them, guys that can inspire them. And you see it just so close. It's a fascinating thing. So if you're in a market, go check it out. If you're not, pop up a game from time to time on ESPN Plus, and I think you will be pleasantly surprised at the level of play.
What he said. Jason, send us home.
There can be only one!
And that is our look at USL League One Weekly here on SDH. And thanks to everybody who was hanging out on the Twitch pitch, by the way. Bern, thank you for all of your input. And everybody still hanging out on the Twitch pitch for letting us share a little bit of USL League One here on the end of a Tuesday.
I know, Jason Nix, it's a work in progress. I'm doing the best I can, okay? Yeah, come on. Give me some slack here, por favor.
But the thing is that why should he be like Kurgan? Why can't he have his own spin on it?
I'm finding my own voice.
This is what I'm saying. You should have your own voice with this. Look, I mean, Kurgan, he had a Highlander blade kind of help him in that regard.
I don't have that. I'm making it up as I go. I'm yelling. I'm being loud. We're trying to find it. We're working. We're working here.
Yeah,
it's a work in progress.
But Nick is catching up on the Gattuso news.
Portland Timbers also releasing the news. There is a new voice in my mind, Nick Alifi. You settle down because you got the Gattuso news. Nick's fired up. Don't yell at me. Still mad that you missed out on the Milan-Atalanta game last week, huh, Nick? Still mad about 7 wins out of 13 for me, huh, Nick? Huh?
Oh, here he goes.
Son disowned you on soccer over there. He's still
served in papers and everything.
You can yell about Kurgan all you want. I don't really care. How about that? Portland Timbers dropping news. Andy Polo injury is legit, as Stu Holden had tweeted yesterday. Left ruptured quadriceps muscle and a torn meniscus. That is an injury. Wow. I have never heard that combination before.
Yeah.
Torn meniscus. So the knee, I guess a torn meniscus is better than an ACL, but a left ruptured quadriceps muscle from that tackle?
Yeah.
Derek Williams?
Well, because, if I remember it correctly, It looked like a hyperextension at the moment of the tackle, and so I could understand if the leg is going a certain direction that it could impact the muscle. So yeah, that is not a combination I've ever heard of either.
So he's out for the rest of the 2021 regular season. The Derek Williams suspension has not been announced as to how much more than just the red card yet. We'll have to wait and see what that looks like. There are rumblings that we will hear about Miami's punishment, maybe today, maybe this week, for their roster transgressions from last year. Point deduction was actually mentioned by a reporter out of South Florida, so I said that's what it needed to be because they affected the playoff race last year with that. There should be a point deduction. There absolutely should be a point deduction, and we'll see if it happens. I don't know why it's still lingering on unless there's appeals and what have you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Nick Alifi's still yelling. He's just rambling at this point. He's all riled up. He did call the Gattuso to Fiorentina a long time ago. That is absolutely correct. And he missed the Milan-Atalanta game, his beloved Milan that he picked against and did not believe in them. That was 8 days ago, Nick. So,
he's taking his muddy boots and he's just stomping on the white sofa right now.
He's just yelling and yelling and yelling and yelling. And hey, it happens. It's all good. As we are about to wrap up, Tafka, we haven't gone into detail on the Federation and some relationship. I think the way it's being portrayed, and Tafka's question is, have we discussed USSF ending at some relationship? They're not doing a new contract. So they're running this contract out, and the USSF is going to take the things that some has done for them, Soccer United Marketing, and do it in-house. They're not putting it out for another bid. They're not going to another agency. They're doing it in-house. So they're changing the way that they're doing their marketing, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
There's been a lot of conclusions jumped to from it, but they're seeing out the deal through 2022. I don't think it changes the way USSF and MLS interact at league levels and at federation levels. MLS created Soccer United Marketing at a time when U.S. Soccer Federation needed something like that, and it was absolutely a beneficial thing for USSF. Believe it is a large guaranteed amount of money every year that some guarantees to U.S. Soccer for marketing activities. Now USSF is going to have to make that money on their own, and they might do a better job of it. They might not. Don't know, but they're going to do it in-house, which is a big change. It's going back to the kind of the 90s for U.S. Soccer Federation. And they're in a different position because of the work of Soccer United Marketing, because of the growth of the game, because of the work of all the different leagues at the grassroots levels in the United States and at the MLS level, the growth of the national teams. The questions for me about it, I'm trying to get specific with it rather than, it means ProRel's coming because they're not working with some anymore. Come on. Really? No. That whole thing was so blown out of proportion anyway. My questions are, does this change the way the women's national team is marketed? Is it marketed separately from the men's national team? Are deals done in separate ways because the federation looks to maximize its properties because it's all in-house now? It could. It absolutely could. Does it change the way that the national teams are televised because the deals will not be lumped together now with MLS and with USSF and the national teams? Do they sell different packages for different teams? I hope it doesn't hurt coverage of like the U20s, of the U17s, of stuff like that. I hope it increases the ability for these games to be seen and these stories to be told. But those are the two big ones that keep coming to mind for me. On the flip side, on the Soccer United Marketing side, they have made money off of having this relationship. That has benefited Major League Soccer. Do they look at other ways to make that money? Do they look at other ways, other properties to potentially market in the United States now that they won't be doing things with the United States Soccer Federation directly? I still think there will be partnerships between the two.
Yeah.
It makes sense for both to work together on things.
Yeah.
But do they put more of an emphasis on the Mexican national team as they have the rights to do that property? Do they look at marketing other countries' national teams in the United States? Do they say, hey, that Lionel Messi guy is a pretty big, opportunity to market things in the United States? Do we want to go and do marketing with the Argentine Federation? in the U.S. They could. It could open up other doors for Soccer United marketing that could grow the entire pie of soccer in the United States. Those are the things I'm looking at. I don't think it changes anything with relationships between the federation and the league. I really, truly don't. I could be naive on that, and I know there are people who would yell that 100%, but I think this is a business deal that now Soccer United marketing is not going to renew with U.S. Soccer Federation. The federation wants to take it in-house because the federation feels like it can make more money by taking it in-house. I think it is that business decision that is at the heart of this. And now they have to prove that they can.
Yeah. For me, I'm right there with you. I thought that this was a decision where they thought that by bringing things in-house, internally, they thought that they could eliminate that one little section of it, and with deals coming up and all that kind of stuff, I thought it was just something that they thought that they could handle and end up getting more money. And as the World Cup is coming in a couple of years, they're taking advantage of all of that runway that's there in front of them to try to take advantage of that financially.
If they were doing another agency, I think it'd be a different conversation. But them saying they're taking it in-house, to me, makes it a pretty simple conversation that the federation feels like they can make more money by doing it themselves rather than outsourcing it.
Yep.
Now they have to prove that. Okay, that's going to do it for us today. We do have trivia tonight for Soccer in the Streets. Go follow at Soccer Streets on your social media channels to find the link to go in. I put it in the Twitch pitch a while ago as well. I retweeted it from my personal Twitter at Longshoe. All you got to do is make a donation to Soccer in the Streets to be able to play. It is that simple. Any donation gets you in the door. This money benefits kids and families with Soccer in the Streets. It's been something we wanted to do when they were unable to do their live events and their event fundraising last year. That was a critical part of the overall revenue stream for Soccer in the Streets, that as a nonprofit, that money goes directly back into programs. You weren't able to do a Champions League or a black tie soccer game or some of the other things that they do. Hopefully we were able to help a little bit with doing the monthly trivias. That we're going to find different ways to continue. Maybe it's not every month. Maybe we mix in some live and remote styles of it. We will see where this goes. But tonight, make a donation if you can play. If you can't, you want to make a donation, please do. If you're able to just retweet and share it and make sure some of your friends who might be willing to play know about it, please do that. It does go to a great cause, a cause that is important to me and a cause that I've seen firsthand the impact it can have. Kids that were in the program when I was a part of Soccer in the Streets are now graduating from college, which is awesome, graduating from high school. Seeing those pictures of guys that I follow on Instagram or, other guys that were in the program that are sharing them, it's really cool to see. So that's where we are tonight, 7 o'clock for that trivia. You'll watch on Zoom. You will answer questions via the Kahoot app. It's super easy. It's multiple choice. Hopefully we see a bunch of you, but please share the word if you can so we can raise a good bit of money for the kids at Soccer in the Streets tonight. Tomorrow, we'll be back at a normal time. We'll also have stoppage time tomorrow afternoon. Mike Conti will join us tomorrow. We are efforting Klaus German. Schedules have not lined up to get Klaus back on the show here lately. Klaus, we are hoping to get on the show tomorrow. Maybe he'll drop an F-bomb with you, John. He's done that before. You guys are both out of control. I'm going to have to put you guys on a 6-second delay.
Yes, we are.
It's out of
Absolutely.
hand. It's out of hand. But hopefully we'll have Klaus on the show tomorrow. If not, we're really trying hard to get him on later this week. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for spreading the word. Thanks for listening. Thanks for chatting. All of the things. We appreciate it. Much platial.
Much platial.